BBC News at 7 o'clock. This is Anthony Birchley. President Trump has threatened Iran with rapid, violent action if it fails to strike a deal over its nuclear ambitions. He's warned that any potential new attack on the regime would be far worse than the strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities last June. The threats follow the killing of thousands of anti-government protesters by the Iranian regime. Barman Kalbasi from BBC Persian has been assessing how people in Iran are interpreting Mr. Trump's comments.
The expectation is if there is a military action, it's likely going to be a limited, symbolic, or focused on Iran's military installations or whatever is left of the nuclear facility, and will not do much to bring the regime down.
Sir Keir Starmer is on a trip to China, which he says will bring benefits back to the UK. The Prime Minister is travelling with around 60 British business and cultural leaders, and he'll meet the Chinese President Xi Jinping tomorrow. The Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has criticised the trip, saying there's no clear agenda, but Sir Keir says it's in Britain's interest to engage with China. Revised official figures show that more people with learning disabilities and autistic people suffered avoidable deaths in 2023 than was first thought. NHS England says the fault with the figures has now been corrected and cannot happen again. The revised findings have prompted renewed concern from families, campaigners and charities about continuing failings in care. Court in London has found a Russian man guilty of assault for attacking a woman after police were alerted by Donald Trump's youngest son, Barron Trump. He witnessed the assault during a video call with the victim and phoned British police from the United States. A film premiere is being hosted for the first time at Windsor Castle tonight for the screening of a new documentary about King Charles. Finding Harmony, a King's Vision, gives viewers behind-the-scenes access to his environmental work. The film was made in collaboration with the King's Foundation charity, which is led by Katrina Murrin.
I think it is a very different type of royal documentary, and we really wanted to bring across that human side. He's an extraordinary man, and he's been on this fantastic journey, and we wanted the audience to see that. See the goods, the bads, and how his thinking has developed over time.
At Edinburgh Zoo, 3 female penguins have joined the regular colony for the first time in a decade. Constance, Maud and Alma are king penguins who've arrived from Rotterdam Zoo earlier this month. One of their keepers is Lorna Moffat.
Our last king penguin chick, he was called McLean, and he hatched in 2009, so that was the last king chick we had. So fingers crossed we will get some more baby king penguins. Our ladies are only 3 years old, and they don't start to lay eggs till they're about 5 years old, so they've got a couple of years of settling in period, which is quite nice.
And the weather, low cloud and fog will form across many eastern and central areas overnight, with patchy rain possible where the cloud is thickest. Elsewhere, a few clear spells and maybe some patchy frost. That's the BBC News at 3 minutes past 7.
5 Live Sports.
Don't miss out on a whole world of live sport. With the BBC Sounds app, get access to the biggest sporting moments as they happen on 5 Sports Extra, Sports Extra 2 and Sports Extra 3.
Oh, what a try! Champion in Paris for the first time.
Scroll through the live radio dial and put yourself at the heart of the action.
This is 5 Live Sports, the Champions League with Mark Chapman. Listen on BBC Sounds.
Here we go then. Busy night ahead. All the matches, all 18 of them, in the Champions League kick off at 8 o'clock. There are currently 5 English teams in the top 8. Arsenal, Liverpool, Spurs, Newcastle and Chelsea. Only Arsenal assured of a place in that top 8. Manchester City are currently in the playoffs. Who knows how this will all end up at the end? There are some big European clubs who at the moment, as things stand, will miss out on the knockout stages. Napoli, Benfica, Ajax, all outside the top 24, although with a chance of getting into the knockout stages this evening. In fact, only 4 teams out of the 36 are definitely out and have nothing to play for. 5 Live final score is the way that you can watch as well as listen. So I'm hoping there'll be an as it stands league table on there. So that might be a good way to do it. It's on the iPlayer on the BBC Sport website. Highlights of everything. Match of the day, 10:40 tonight on BBC One. Let's go round all of the important games. We'll start in Paris. This will be our base for the evening. Team news for Paris Saint-Germain Newcastle. A must-win for both sides. John Murray.
Well, Newcastle almost certainly need to win here to directly qualify for the round of 16. Eddie Howe's called this one of the toughest assignments in football, to come and play the holders in the Parc des Princes. So his team news is somewhat surprising. Only substitutes tonight are Bruno Guimaraes, although he has had an ankle problem. But also, neither Gordon nor Barnes are in the team. They're on the bench. Wissa's a substitute, and Trippier as well. So the Newcastle team has Dan Burn back in it as captain, but it is Pope, Chow, Botman and Burn, then Miley, we think at right wing back, Ramsey, Tonali and Lewis Hall, then Elanga, Voltemada and Willock. Whereas PSG, OK, the Russian Safanov might be in goal rather than Chevalier, but other than that, very strong. Hakimi, Marquinhos, Pacho, Nuno Mendes, Zaire Emery, Vitinha, João Neves, Kvaratskhelia, Dembele and Barcola. PSG were always going to be the favourites. I would say they're now the hot favourites.
Right, Manchester City outside the top 8 as it stands, so they need to win, and you may hear this phrase a lot tonight, hope other results go their way. They're at home to Galatasaray. Ian Dennis.
Well, I would suggest more that the permutations for Manchester City of all of the English sides are the most complicated. As you say, not only do they need to win...
Are you giving yourself a bit of leeway, are you?
No,
Is that why you've gone with that?
Well... When
yes.
I say it's complicated, you're making it harder by interrupting.
Go on then, sorry.
Not only do they need to win,
all yours.
but they also need at least 4 of 8 other matches to go in their favour, if you include Atletico Madrid, who are behind them. The team news, 4 changes from Wolves as Haaland returns but Marmoush remains. Ake, Aït-Nouri and Doku also start instead of Guehi, Reinders, Rodri and Semenyo. Galatasaray, who are backed by significant support, have something to play for. 2 ex-City players in their 11, Gundogan and Sane, they start, and they also know that they will qualify for the playoffs if they avoid defeat.
Concentrate, Ian.
Don't worry. I will, I've done my homework.
Chelsea fighting to stay in the top 8. They're at Napoli. As I say, they are fighting to stay in the competition. Chris Cole's across this.
This is set up very nicely indeed. Both sides realistically need a handsome win to make absolutely sure of their respective goals. It'll almost certainly come down to goal difference, and the numbers for both aren't spectacular, albeit should there be a winner, they'd be pretty unlucky not to end the night with what they came for. Chelsea's issue, yet to win on their travels in the Champions League this season, and up against the Napoli side, who've only lost 1 of their last 20 home matches in the competition. Still no Cole Palmer for Chelsea. He's only on the bench. Antonio Conte's Napoli without several key players, Kevin De Bruyne included, but the prolific Scott McTominay and Rasmus Højlund play. Romelu Lukaku is a substitute.
Now, the good thing for Spurs, who are in the top 8, is that they are taking on one of the few teams who are already out and have nothing to play for. They are at Eintracht Frankfurt. John Akers.
Thomas Frank makes 5 changes to the side that drew 2-2 at Burnley, with starts for Destiny Udogie, Archie Gray, Pap Sarr, João Paulinho and Kolo Muani. Dominic Solanke is on the bench, and he's the only regular first teamer amongst a youthful bench. They start the evening 5th in the table. Win tonight obviously guarantees them a top 8 finish and a direct ticket to the last 16. If they draw, they'll definitely still finish in the top 8. If no more than 3 of the 9 teams who could overtake them win, then it gets really complicated with goal difference, but obviously we'll follow that through the evening. 14 senior players out, but you're right, confident. They won against Eintracht Frankfurt in April in Frankfurt, and the home side, as you say, no skin in the game, 33rd in the table and can't move forward.
Liverpool are 4th in the table. They can still be caught by teams, so they're not completely safe, and they have actually what could be quite a tricky tie this evening. They're at home to Karabakh, who are looking to qualify themselves. They go into tonight in 18th. Lee Blakeman.
Yeah, to simplify it, win and Liverpool are through. It's as simple as that. A defeat or even a draw could leave us all reaching for calculators, depending on what happens elsewhere. Liverpool's defeat at Bournemouth on Saturday saw an end to their 13-match unbeaten run in all competitions. Last losing, actually, when they last played here in the Champions League. PSV beat them 4-1 in November. Tonight, Arne Slot's made 2 changes from Saturday, with Robertson and Ekitike starting in place of Gomez and Kerkez, which means Ryan Gravenberch is expected to start at centre centre-back. They host a Karabakh team who beat Frankfurt last week and sit 18th in the Champions League table. They're not guaranteed a playoff spot, and mathematically they could go through in the automatic positions, but a lot will need to happen to make that a reality.
Now, the problem for the teams in the top 8, so for Chelsea and Newcastle and Paris Saint-Germain and Spurs and Liverpool, is that Barcelona are hovering. They are in 9th. They're at home to Copenhagen. Maz Faruqi.
Yeah, and they're one of 8 teams on 13 points. So a win, we keep saying it tonight, and importantly, keeping that goals scored column ticking over could be crucial for a top 8 finish for Barcelona tonight against an FC Copenhagen team only just outside of the playoff spots themselves on goal difference, and they're on a good run of 3 unbeaten in Europe heading into this match at Camp Nou. All 3 goal scorers from the win on Sunday that sent Barcelona back top of the Spanish league start tonight in Dani Olmo, Rafinha and Lamine Yamal. Fermin Lopez, who has 5 goals in 6 games in Europe this season, starts as well in midfield. So Marcus Rashford is on the bench. There's no Thomas Delaney for Copenhagen tonight after that red card against Napoli last time out in Europe. Jordan Larson, son of Henrik, and Mohamed El Yanoussi amongst their starters this evening.
And then there's Arsenal, top of the table, 7 wins from 7. They will finish top if they win and if they draw. And even if they lose, they might still finish top. They'll definitely finish top 2, which is important because it means they get the second leg at home guaranteed all the way through the knockout stages. So really, John Southall, there is not going to be a lot for you to do tonight.
Feet up, stress-free.
Feet up.
Listening to some of those permutations. That's probably not a bad thing. Yeah, I think it's a pretty safe bet that Arsenal will finish top of the league phase. Even if they lose tonight, and that is a very big if, then Bayern have to win at PSV, and there's a 5-goal swing needed as well. And the fact is that Kairat are 36th and bottom of the table with 1 point and have conceded 19 goals so far. So Mikel Arteta has made 11 changes from the Manchester United defeat. Saliba and Timber have slight injuries and Rice is suspended. The rest are being rested. Kai Havertz makes his first start since early February last year, and Ricardo Calafiore is also back. The last time he featured just before Christmas. Yep, so Arsenal looking for that perfect 8 from 8 wins on the trot, and as you say, importantly, that second spot is already guaranteed, so any second leg in the last 16 will be here, and likewise if they make it to the quarters and the semi-finals. Yep, you might not be hearing much from me. This will be a pretty stress-free night, I think.
Arsenal's women are into the second half, by the way, of the Women's Champions Cup, so that's the equivalent of the Men's Club World Cup, and they lead AS FAR Rabat by 4 goals to 0. Let me just tell you what the other games are in the Champions League, because there are some really intriguing ties tonight. Ajax play Olympiacos, Athletic Club are at home to Sporting, Atletico Madrid get Bodo Glimt. Massive game in Portugal. Benfica against Real Madrid. Benfica so far not going through to the knockout stages. Real Madrid are in 3rd. Bruges play Marseille. It's Borussia Dortmund against Inter. That will have an effect on teams above them because obviously they can't both win, so that will take one of them out a little bit for the teams chasing the automatic 8 places. Bayer Leverkusen play Villarreal. Pafos against Slavia Prague. PSV against Bayern, and Union Saint-Gilloise are taking on Atalanta. It is one of the great nights, not necessarily for the football, but more for the entertainment of John Murray trying to follow and, as it stands, 36-team league table throughout the course of the night. It's equivalent to asking your dad to set up a TikTok account. Are you looking forward to this?
Do you know what I'm slightly wary of tonight is that if this match, if PSG Newcastle turns out to be an absolute thriller, end-to-end goals flying in, where it feels at the same time it's more important to be keeping tabs on a table on a screen in front of me, then it could be. I might need a long lie down after the match tonight.
Are you across all the tiebreakers if teams finish on points? Because it goes down to 10. There are 10 categories.
Yes, categories A to J. So actually, it starts off very straightforward.
Oh my God, you're going to do all 10, aren't you? Go on, show off.
It's very simple. Yeah. Well, it's goal difference, goals scored, then away goals, number of wins, number of away wins. So that's all very straightforward, and let's hope that sorts it all out, shall we?
Do you know what
Because
the next one is
that,
after that?
F is points obtained collectively by the league phase opponent of the individual teams in question. So then it's superior collective goal difference of all of the opponents. Then it's higher number of goals scored collectively by league phase opponents, and then there's a disciplinary category, and then it's everyone's old favourite, the club coefficient. If all else fails, it comes down to the club coefficient.
What would be amazing radio, John? Were it for the game you are at to be 4-3 either way, but 8th place to be decided by highest collective goal difference of league phase opponents. That would be a beautiful mix for you.
And this, Mark, is where we are putting our hands very much in the hands of the UEFA software.
Chris Sutton is alongside John. Julien Laurent and Nader Manua are in the studio with us, part of the Match of the Day team later on. What do you make of the Newcastle team, Chris, and what does that tell you about Eddie Howe's planning and mentality? Because they're at Liverpool on Saturday night.
Yeah, it's that balance for Eddie Howe. I suspect there may have been in his thinking that even if I went with my strongest 11, there's a fair chance we'll get beaten if PSG turn up. It's an opportunity for some players coming into the starting lineup. Look at the likes of Anthony Elanga. He hasn't played much this season, so an opportunity to show Eddie Howe what he can do. But I fear for them a little bit with that starting lineup. You think that Anthony Gordon, 6 goals in this competition, Harvey Barnes 5 goals in this competition. You think about Bruno Guimarães' influence in midfield for Newcastle this season. He was an injury doubt anyway coming into this, so maybe there's a bit of that in Eddie Howe's thinking, but it's certainly not his strongest 11.
Jules, how do you feel about that? If you happen to be a PSG fan, are you happy to see that team?
Yeah, I think so, but certainly that's not what Luis Enrique and the team had been working on, so maybe there's a bit of throwing that curveball, all the video analysis that PSG did before the game, all the work on Barnes and Gordon, for example, for Hakimi and Nuno Mendes and the centre-backs to defend or to cover. All that kind of work is pointless now because they're on the bench, they might not even come on. So I think there will be a big surprise for Luis Enrique seeing that the Newcastle team out tonight. I guess his priorities also, I think the most important for Newcastle, who are not going to win the Champions League anyway, is to make sure that they are in the Champions League next season. And for that, probably you would argue that the most important games this week is the Liverpool one, not the one tonight. They're already guaranteed to play at least the playoffs. You would take that. They would have taken that before the start of the campaign,
happens,
right?
For example, if after today they drop down into the playoff section and it's going to be 2 extra games, in your push to try and finish in the top 4, surely those 2 extra games aren't going to benefit you. I would have thought personally that they would have put out, not to say this team isn't strong as such, but I thought they would have put out a more familiar team because they would have fancied their chances, in my mind, of being able to get a result there. Whereas this one, I don't know, it seems to give off the wrong message, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
It's the midfield area that strikes you as, for a man, Nadem, who has been so wedded to a 4-3-3 and a regular midfield of Bruno Antonelli and Joelinton. It does feel like quite a shift, that, because one of the other reasons people talked about him having a tactical switch was to try and get Voltemada and Wissa in the same team, and that still hasn't happened with this tactical switch.
I don't know. I'm just not sure about it as well, because given the fact that Bruno Guimarães missed the game on the weekend, I think through injury, for him to be on the bench as somebody who plays basically every minute for Eddie Howe, what would be the purpose of keeping your captain on the bench in that manner? I really don't understand it. And yes, this feels like it's a very sort of different look to how we'd seen them previously. But actually, are we assuming this is a 3-4-3, or do we think it's going to be a 4?
No, 3-4-3. I think. Yeah, Hall and you. It's difficult. Or Hall out right back, but it would be difficult.
Are you sure? Could it not be a 4-3-3 still?
Well, John gave us the back 3 first of all. I've got a graphic in front of me on the site that has it as a back 3 as well. That's how you've been steered, John. Yes.
Yeah, that's the feeling that Lewis Miley will be on the right-hand side and Lewis Hall on the left-hand side. And yeah, I mean he has played 3 central defenders, hasn't he? Eddie Howe over the time. Yes, you're absolutely right. He's more often a back 4 man, but when he has Chow, Botman and Byrne at his disposal and Lewis Hall, maybe feels that this is the best way to go tonight here in these circumstances with the team that he intends to play.
He's played the back three before this season, to be fair, to cope with all the injuries, especially a right back. But it's still strange that Trippier is on the bench. He had better options to play.
The other issue for Newcastle at the moment is their form away from home. They've only won 3 away games in all competitions this season. They've averaged just 1.2 goals per game away compared to exactly 2 per match at St James's. Let's hear from Eddie Howe on that.
I think sometimes the bigger the game and the harder the challenge, the more you have to rise to it. It goes without saying. And I think, there's been, rightly so, a lot of questions asked about our away form and our ability to, as I said and mentioned in the previous game, our ability to handle pressure, to be resilient in times when we're not the dominant team. Probably haven't done that well enough this year. And then, of course, when you do get the moments that you need to show your quality the other way, this should be a really good game to try and answer some questions and to try and show ourselves that we can be effective in every environment and in every game that we play. So I think we'll endeavour to try and set the team up to do that. And then, of course, we need all the players to play at their maximum level.
Why do you think they're struggling away from home, Chris?
Well, I think the start of the season, all the Isak saga didn't help, and then, Wissa hasn't played a lot of football. He's back now. He's a good option now for Eddie Howe to change things up top. And I think they've suffered from that as much as anything. But tonight is an opportunity. Everybody's writing them off, and I get it now. You see Newcastle starting lineup, but it's also an opportunity where Newcastle, if they can come and get the result, just imagine the confidence they can get from this.
Let me ask you, we've all seen a lot of Champions League football this season and a lot of Premier League football this season. What do you make of Anthony Gordon's comments on the difference between the Premier League and the Champions League? He says in the Champions League, teams are more open, they all try and play. In the Premier League, it's become more physical than I've ever known it to be. There's not much control, it's just a running game. The Champions League is a bit more of an older style of game, more football-based. Teams come and try and play proper football.
Older style, more football-based? And when he says older style, how young is he to be calling older style?
Well, I think he's probably only going back 3 years. He's not watching Premier League years from 1998.
He's not seen those muddy pitches in the 90s, has he? You know what I mean? Everyone get the ball down and play there. I think, obviously, he's living the experience as such, isn't he? So as a consequence, he'll have an idea of what's going on. But I think some of the teams that they played against in Champions League, maybe they just have that style. These are teams who are winning their leagues or up near the top of their table, so they will play in a different manner. But then also, I think in some ways, as I hear that, it kind of alludes to Newcastle being the protagonist for a lot of their games during the season, Premier League season. But I don't believe that to be true either. So I'm not 100% on board, but I'm going to be reluctantly. I don't want to say he's wrong either, given the fact that I say he's playing week in, week out.
Is it just maybe a way of deflecting the attention to the point that he's got more goals in the Champions League than in the Premier League, where he's struggling and only scored 2 penalties the whole season, and saying, listen, I find it easier in the Champions League, when it's not. It's just the way the games happen. He scored 2 penalties against Union Saint-Gilloise, for example, which you would think that 1, Newcastle would win and be good and dominant, and 2, he would probably score. And I'm not sure really his analysis of the 2 different competitions and the level and the styles are, 1, very accurate, and 2, just justify his poor form in the league.
In fairness, obviously that's the Julian Ron opinion. But I think what I'd say as well, for the Champions League, this new format, one of the reasons I like it is because every game is a one-off, so it feels special. Whereas historically you'd have the home game and the away game through the group phase, so you'd almost maybe have it tighter in some ways. Whereas in the league, you're seeing these teams twice. They understand the context of any game at any particular moment. But a Champions League game, every game is essentially not like a final in terms of what its value is, but more so of a final in terms of you take those 3 points, that's it. There's nothing that they can do about it. And I think maybe that plays into it a little bit.
Just one on Paris Saint-Germain here. We'll probably touch on them a little bit later on as well. But we will obviously touch on them a little bit later on. But have they just tried, like a lot of teams, tried to manage their way through this? Not necessarily bothered about finishing top 2, but they want to finish top 8.
Yeah, probably. I think they were more chasing a bit the form that they had in the second half of last season, which, because of the Club World Cup and all the injuries they've had, they haven't really been the same. They haven't clicked as well a bit to some extent to what we saw last season in the first half, and then that Man City game, sorry Nez, but just it clicked and they turned everything around. But because there have been no Hakimi for a long time, no Dembele, no Doué, all those kind of injuries, and it was stop and go, one good performance or decent performance, then the week after it was a bit slow and average again. And so I think more than where they would finish is now, I think they feel the time to just recover that form that they had in the second half of last season.
Let's go from Paris to the Etihad. Michael Brown there for us this evening. Galatasaray are City's visitors. City, one of these teams on 13 points. So the teams on 13 points go from 6th, which is Paris Saint-Germain, down to Atalanta in 13th. It's, as Ian Dennis said earlier, Michael, it's going to be complicated.
And who could argue with him, chappers? He spent a lot of the time in the press room. He was there and he was discussing it with everybody. They were saying there's 6 or 7 different options, but then he was letting them know that he's 8. So he's ready for it. He's got everyone ready. You know, it's a complicated night, but for City, they have certainly sent mixed messages with the performances of late. It's a really strange atmosphere here tonight. There's lots of away fans all around the stadium. It's going to be an indifferent game, but big talking points, isn't there? Haaland comes back in. Foden not making it. I think that's huge, isn't it? In a big game like this where Pep's got to find a formula. So to find himself in this system, I think it goes back to there's lots of changes early on in the Champions League. It's cost them, and that performance in the last time out has been exceptionally poor. So let's see what they bring. I think they'll expect a little bit more energy. They'll be trying to get into Doku very early, but it's a huge game here for Pep.
You say the atmosphere's strange. What, in the sense of they don't know quite what to expect from City, or that they kind of feel that maybe even if they win this, results elsewhere might mean they stay exactly where they are in the knockout stages rather than go straight through to the last 16?
Well, I just think you look at it, and maybe the viewpoint from the supporters is whether they just feel like, oh, the Champions League, yeah, we'll take it more serious as it drifts along the way for some supporters, because there's a heavy presence all around the stadium. I don't just mean the away end. I've not seen it like this before, guys, of like away fans all around the main stand, all behind the goal, everywhere. We've seen Galatasaray players come, and way before we'd even seen anybody else, they were here taking pictures, and they're expecting to come here and get a performance. They're just going to get after City. You can see it, and that's what I mean by strange, because the level of away fans and maybe the home supporters not expecting too much of a danger, but it's going to be.
They've got, haven't they, Nedum, so many injury issues, and also players who can't play tonight. You know, they've got a lot of young players on the bench. They really could do without the 2 extra games.
Yeah, absolutely they could, but then also in regards to that, if they do go into those 2 extra games, all of a sudden Semenyo arrives and Guehi arrives, so they then become more prepared for it. And obviously that'd be the case whether they're in the top 8 or the next 16 after that as such. But this is just the situation they found themselves in, and Michael makes the point that, you know, if they would have handled business away at Bodo in a better fashion, then they're in greater control of this moment. If they wouldn't have, say, struggled as much as they did losing at home to Leverkusen, all those
that
matches
was the game,
ago.
wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
That was the game. He made all the changes, didn't he? We've seen Aït-Nouri go off. We've not seen him until tonight. Really had a little bit of a cameo last week. But does that game, Nedum, is that the one really where everything changed for this group, where it looked so good?
Not necessarily. I think at that point he could make 11 changes because the squad was as deep as it had been. From then, there were quite a few injuries that started to come up. You know, with the Aït-Nouri one being one in particular. A few weeks later, you know, it's Ruben Diaz, it's Josko Vardiol, and Nico, and all these other guys. But I think it's the Bodo one for me, because Bodo, myself and others, we try and play down their significance, but they're a tough side to play against. But I still would have expected City to be able to win that game of football. But instead of, say, potentially winning it, they were basically outrun, and it was a really poor showing and an historic night for Bodo. If they would have played to a better standard last week, this game in itself, it's almost like, not a procession as such, but it won't matter. And I think in terms of the atmosphere, to have the last game of the group against Galatasaray, who travel really well as a fan base, not necessarily as a team, but as a fan base, it changes the atmosphere, because for these City fans as well, they don't have a history of Galatasaray, so they don't necessarily know what the matchup's going to look like.
The other thing with Galatasaray is you talk about them travelling well. They have they have got Jules, haven't they? I mean, they have got some experience.
Yeah.
In that side. I always think you see a Galatasaray lineup and go, oh, he's there.
Exactly.
You know?
And on the bench as well, they've got Lucas Torreira on the bench, the former Arsenal midfielder. There's a lot of little
Cardi's
stories.
on the bench.
Yeah, and we mentioned Sané and Gundogan earlier.
Yeah.
With Deno, also Gabriel Sara for the Norwich fans that are listening.
Davison
Sanchez, yeah, the former Spurs player. There's you're right. There's
Mario
a lot.
Lemina.
Yeah, Mario Lemina.
And then
course,
Osimhen up front.
Yeah, and Osimhen up front, who had wanted a move to the Premier League for so many years now, for whatever reason, just hadn't happened yet. But might happen in the future, especially in games like tonight. He shows what he can do, and against an English opposition. But he says it's such a tricky game. My train at lunchtime today, coming up here from London, was full of Turkish Galatasaray fans coming from London, found tickets. They were explaining pretty much everywhere, like trying to buy it regardless of where they could sit, to go back to what Bryony was saying about the stands and what it would be like. So the atmosphere will be probably pretty special from a Manchester City point of view, and I think this is a tricky game, and I do think that if City score the first goal, this is not a Galatasaray team that usually comes back into game, but if they don't score the first goal, I think it becomes even harder.
Is he in, Michael, Pep Guardiola, is he in one of those spells that it feels like he has from time to time, where you start to think, why are you doing that with the selection?
Do you know, it's exactly what we're looking at, aren't we? Because I was actually thinking about this before, is because he was asked, wasn't he, in his presser actually about Erling Haaland, and he said he's not been scoring goals. Is it a team? Is it a style? Is it a setup? Is it the player? And he actually said it's the player. And last week he actually said that the player needed time to clear his mind. So he's actually come for Erling Haaland a little bit, which at times when things are not going so well, Phil Foden was exceptional. We've seen really good things of him this season. He finds himself on the bench, lack of form in this particular window. So we've seen it, haven't we, over the years. Kevin De Bruyne at times has certainly been on the wrong end. We've seen a Cancelo. We can go on and mention many others. And when things don't go well and you're not winning, he quite easily can go after certain players. And I think what he says to the squad is, I'll go after the biggest one. And that's probably something at times doesn't always go his way. But it's hard to argue with what he's produced. But he seems to be in one of those little moods right now.
All right. Michael, thank you. Michael, part of the commentary team on Sports Extra. If you want to listen to Manchester City against Galatasaray. On Sports Extra 2, Napoli against Chelsea. Leon Osman will be part of the commentary team for that. And realistically, when you look at this, Leon, Chelsea need to win, don't they? They have the 8th and final spot on goal difference at the moment. But Barcelona are at home to Copenhagen. They will fancy their chances. Sporting, City, Atletico, Atalanta, all poised to take advantage if Chelsea don't win.
Yeah, I mean, it's 8th at the moment. It's theirs as it stands. But, you know, it's, as you've already taught, the table is so tight. So many teams on 13 points. Never mind those still in reach and distance of Chelsea on 12 and 11 points, respectively. As you mentioned, Inter, Juve will all be thinking they've got an opportunity to win if Chelsea don't win themselves, because Napoli need to win. This isn't straightforward in terms of playing a team that have got nothing to play for. Napoli are desperate for a win to try and just carry on in the Champions League. They certainly can't make the knockout stages, which we're all talking about, but very precarious position. So it's a game that they need to win. It's a game that I think they will be confident in. That Napoli not necessarily getting the results that they'd expect. So many injuries that they're suffering with as well. Chelsea with near full squad. Cole Palmer back in the squad. Liam Delap back on the substitutes bench, and I think they'll fancy themselves to go and get something.
Do you? Do you fancy Chelsea?
Yeah,
or they fancy themselves? Do you fancy them?
Yeah, I think I do actually. Yeah, I think it'll be a good game. I think they've got something to prove, Chelsea, in terms of where they are at the moment in the Champions League. They've not really beaten any of the sort of bigger teams. I think they started off. They got beat to Bayern Munich, who are second in the table. They beat Benfica, who are 29th.
Beat Barcelona.
They beat Barcelona. That's the only one that they beat, who are 9th. So they beat Benfica, who are 29th. They beat Ajax, who are 32nd. They drew with Karabag, who are 18th. They beat Atlanta, who were actually 13th, but Paphos 30th. They've quite a number of their victories have come against teams that you'd expect them to win. They're in the bottom 4 or 5, and they're certainly out of the competition. So I do think this is, one, an opportunity to show against a more respected team, regardless of them being down there in the league, and 2, an opportunity in terms of playing a team that is weakened by injury.
It's probably the best time to play Napoli. They've got 5 or 6 starters out. They lost 3-0 at the weekend against Juventus in a game that would have meant a lot to Antonio Conte. Like tonight, it's obviously the Conte derby, right, tonight, so that would feel special for him. And they are a little bit all over the place because of those players missing, but also because I think it's 1 win in the last 6 in all competitions. So for Chelsea and Rossini, who's like Ozzy just said, it needs that big win in a way. Maybe at this time now, this is massive for them.
Why do you think Antonio Conte, compared to his domestic record, struggles in Europe?
It's a great question. I think he's probably struggling to understand a little bit. I think for a long time his system and his tactical rigidity, in a way, of keeping faith with the back three and be very dogmatic in that sense, played against top team that would find him out very quickly. And I think he's always struggled a little bit to win in 2 competitions. So remember when he won the title with Chelsea, they were not in Europe, for example, and that was better for him because he could prepare the whole week for a game. When he has to play every 3 days and less time on the training ground, especially if his squad is not deep enough, in a way, he's always struggled in Europe, clearly prioritising the league as well.
Scott McTominay, by the way, scored 4 goals in his last 5 Champions League appearances. Anybody like to hazard a guess the last Scotsman to score 5 goals in a single European Cup season? And I've said European Cup there, so that's a quick. You've got to go back a little bit.
No.
Kenny Dalglish?
No.
Ali McCoist?
No, similar era to Ali McCoist, and it was for Rangers, actually. Well, I'll give it you. Mo Johnston. Mo Johnston in 1991 for Rangers. Raheem Sterling, by the way, has left Chelsea by mutual consent today after reaching an agreement to end his contract early. He had 18 months remaining on his £300,000 plus a week deal. And they are in the market still for another defender, aren't they? I mean, they still, but another young defender as well. They have so many defenders, and yet they never seem happy with what they've got.
Yeah, well, you look at this evening, and you look at the substitutes bench, and you look at Badiashile and Chalobah, 2 recognised centre backs. Even Hato, who is probably going to mature to a centre back, possibly you'd say more a left back at the moment, and yet you're playing Reece James centre half, despite having all of that. So there's something, even Liam Rossini's come in, something's not quite assured with regards to a dominant centre-back pair and somebody that he stepped in and thought, that's my man, that's the guy who's going to be playing centre-half every week. Reece James is the captain, he seems to be that figure, but we all think he's more a right-back than anything, certainly than a dominant centre-half. So, yeah, it seems like the not quite the jury's still out, but it doesn't seem like after a short spell at Chelsea that he's quite comfortable with what he's got, and it looks like he's in the market for someone else.
Do we think he's in the market, or just Chelsea are in the market for another defender?
Chelsea.
Yeah. But they've got, I was reading an article on the Athletic today, and it was quite funny how it was written, but they've got 12 at the moment. They've also just brought the kid back from they've brought him back from Borussia Dortmund.
12 centre-backs, 12 defenders.
12 defenders.
Okay.
They've still
8 centre-backs, I think.
Yeah, they've still got Disasi.
Yeah.
Whatever they're gonna do. And the other thing with the defenders is, and the Jacquet from Rennes.
Jacquet, yeah.
But he's 20.
Yeah.
So he sort of follows a similar age profile as a lot of the others.
Absolutely. I mean, the only experience really would come from
Tosin
and Reece James, albeit sometimes like tonight not in his best position, and Sanchez, I guess, certainly in terms of age more than in experience itself of kind of level played. Jacquet, when you're ready to spend 50 million euros on a 20-year-old, as good as he is, and he's already probably the best for his age group and is going to be amazing, it's really strange. And you just wonder, how are you building this squad? Because it's also a squad that lacks talent in some positions, and yet you keep adding up players from the same position.
It's always, you're doing it as a business model as well. If you're signing these players and you think they're the hot young talent, and if we bring them in now, then we'll take a look at them, see where they are, and we'll send them on loan, and we'll sell them on for more money if we don't want them. But I'm not quite seeing that. I'm
Exactly.
I'm not
still at the
quite
club.
seeing the option. It seems like they're just throwing money away after money with after just wanting to have a little look close up rather than still scan from afar and make your decision in that way. So yeah, it is a surprise, but it's also not a surprise because it's Chelsea.
Leon, thank you very much. So Leon, part of the commentary team, alongside Conor McNamara for Napoli against Chelsea, Sports Extra 2, if you want to listen to that. Let's talk Liverpool-Qarabağ next, which, as we were saying, Nadim, will be a difficult tie for them.
Yes, it will. And in my mind, I don't think I thought that would be the case when the fixtures first came out. But given how this season has gone for Liverpool, nothing feels like it's a guarantee anymore.
No.
And, in some ways, it doesn't necessarily even matter what sort of side they put out. I think teams generally have a bit more belief whilst playing against them now, and they don't necessarily feel like a team that's just won the Premier League. So playing at home without the confidence that we'd imagine they would have had if they had a more sort of like dominant run domestically and in Europe, I think for Qarabağ, with something to play for, they'll be really, really dangerous. And essentially, again, this is the upside of these one-off games. You've not seen them before earlier in the competition, Qarabağ. They've not seen Liverpool before. So as they go and do this now, everything is novel. You could watch video, but it's not the same. And when the game comes, these players who you've likely never played against before, they're going to take it to you with their own sort of like agenda on the line as well.
Whereas Chelsea have, what did we decide it was? 8 centre-halves?
Yes,
did we decide it was?
8.
Liverpool have 1 fit
Exactly.
centre. I mean, at the other end of the scale, and that's Van Dijk. So Gravenberch likely to be centre-half tonight.
Yeah, it will be like Endo was after he came on against Bournemouth at the weekend. It's quite hard to understand really how a club like Liverpool has gone down to this, really, because, okay, Leonie's injury, he was a young player, that's unfortunate. Right now, Ibrahima Konate, unfortunately, is unavailable after the passing of his father. But still, the Marguerite saga in the summer that in the end didn't come, but there was no time for a plan B either. The fact that still in this January, where they had 25 days to sign a centre-back or a defender that could play a centre-back, nobody has arrived. It's really baffling. And in a way, I feel a little bit for Arne Slot to be in this position. Look at the bench for Liverpool today. Apart from Endo and Kerkez, the rest are obviously still kids, and they even short.
He's got Chiesa as well.
And Chiesa, who's just coming back from injury.
Yeah.
But this is it. The rest are kids, and you're still 2 man short, I think, on the bench, compared to the numbers that you allowed even to be there. So when you've got Newcastle coming up on Saturday too, in the evening, at Anfield, I think it's a very tricky position to be in.
But actually, you look at who's out, and on the website I'm on, you've got the players who are out as well. Bradley, Gomez, Isak, Konate, and possibly you would throw Leone in there as a first-team option, because his debut in the League Cup was very impressive until he hurt his knee. I mean, it's not like they've got 10 or 12 out, actually.
I think that's fair, and I think earlier in the season there were discussions around, for all the signings that they brought in, it still didn't mean the squad was that deep. I think in some ways it had the potential to have really good top-end quality, but the depth wasn't necessarily going to be there, whereas at other sides, like we've not spoken about Arsenal yet, they've made 11 changes, and the team that they've put out is a very good side. Like Liverpool couldn't have done that at the start of the season when everyone was available anyway. But I think through this injury crisis and the situation that they're in, I know they're missing a centre-half, but Jules, that team that they're starting with, that's a very good side on paper now.
The front four is very strong.
Yeah, exactly. So that team should have enough to win this game. It should have enough. I think the issue then comes, though, as you're sort of alluding to there, Chappers, if the manager needs to make changes in the game to try and make a difference. I think some of those people who are either on the bench now or might be missing in general, not every one of those people, I think, would have the potential and the ability to sort of be a big game changer for them, because I think at times for Liverpool they are quite top heavy.
Spurs are going to finish top 8, aren't they?
Just as we thought, Chappers. It was never in doubt, was it? From when the Champions League started, everybody knew Spurs will finish top 8 comfortably, be in a crisis domestically, but be kings of Europe. This is how we drew it up.
Do you delve deeply into that, about what it says about the Champions League?
Or no, I'm gonna.
You're
I'm
not
gonna
soul searching.
No, I'm not going to.
Some people are.
Yeah, I think with the Champions League these last 2 seasons, it's really interesting because you don't necessarily always see people's path to get to where they are. So when you get to this last game week, everybody's in their position, but you wouldn't necessarily remember who they've played against to be there. Like, say, Spurs, for example. In fact, who we're talking about that's played loads of lower-ranked teams? Chelsea, for example.
Yeah.
You know, so the points that they have on the board are impressive, and they're the same as this other team. But the way this other team sort of like points have come have been very, very different. That's why, you know, you have those in those option 7, option 8, and option 9 in terms of deciding who finishes higher, because the task to get there can be different. And for Spurs, you know, playing against Dortmund, for example, last week at home, that had the potential to be a really difficult game until Dortmund have a player sent off early on in the game, and that changes the context around it. So now that game favours them. You know, they're playing at home. It's going to be tough for Dortmund. It became tougher once that red card kicked in. But 3 points is 3 points. You take the scenario however you can. And I think their previous win was against Slavia Prague. Spurs can find ways to win games of football. And again, because they're one-offs, there's no chance for the other team to come back and get them in the second game. This is just it, here and now.
I'm not saying this is going to happen.
I think you might. I think you are. Whatever this is going to be.
I'm not, but it's just quite a...
Oh, you want it to happen?
No, I most definitely don't want it to happen.
Spurs,
I
Arsenal
wouldn't say that. No. If Spurs were to lose tonight, and yet they will still qualify for they probably wouldn't go through in the top 8, but they would still qualify for the knockout stages of the Champions League. That makes it even more a weird situation, uncomfortable situation for Thomas Frank, doesn't it?
Completely, it is. And then, as we said, they host City on Sunday afternoon, and if that's not a win, again, the fans are already, let's be honest here, not really in favour of him. If that's, let's say, 2 defeats this week, Frankfurt tonight and City on Sunday, I'm not sure where the club goes, but I don't think it would be with Thomas Frank. And it's a weird situation to be in, because you're right, they're 5th in the Champions League, and you think, okay, but Villarreal are 3rd in La Liga, and they're 2nd from bottom in this Champions League. So, again, there are things that may be difficult to explain. But the fact that I don't think the Champions League right now, at this stage, can save Thomas Frank.
So, are you bothered, as someone with a different nationality, that a team who are struggling so much in the Premier League are on course for automatic qualification?
Yeah.
And to expand that, are you bothered that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 English clubs in the top 8?
Yes, because I don't think, as I keep repeating to Nathan, he must be bored of it. I don't think this Premier League season has very good level. I don't think that the football that we see in the Premier League this weekend, apart from the odd games there and there, is that good.
Where do you think, because obviously we do this a lot in English media, we have one foreign journalist, we ask them about the whole of the continent. Where do you think the highest standard of football is at the moment?
But I think every league is suffering right now.
Do you?
Yeah, I think because of the calendar and the fixtures and how much football is being played. I don't think La Liga is great. As I mentioned, Villarreal for very long was close to Real Madrid and Barcelona, and yet they're 2nd from bottom in this. I don't think Real Madrid have been great. In Italy, it's a very exciting title race. But again, I don't think Inter Milan have been that great. Certainly Roma or even Milan, who don't play in Europe, full stop. In Germany, apart from Bayern, the rest have been very average. And again, in the Premier League, when you look from 4th to 14th and the goal differences of those teams, it shows you how average it's been. And maybe this average has meant this is competitive because anybody can beat anybody. I get that. But overall, I just don't think right now in Europe the level is that high.
And because I know Chris will be listening, the Scottish Premiership title race is
amazing. Great football. Great football.
Do you have anything to say on Arsenal?
Fair play to them, you know what I mean? They're handling business so well, and I think the point that you made earlier in the show about finishing in the top 2 and guaranteeing a home leg for the second leg throughout the whole thing, I think that is big for them, because that's, for me, feels like a redemption arc as opposed to playing away to PSG last year, which I don't think should have happened and wouldn't happen under this system. Is that right, Jules?
Yeah, exactly.
Correct,
It's new.
Yeah.
Right, we'll let you go. Get over to the Match of the Day office. The highlights 10:40 tonight on BBC One.
See you there, chappers.
See you in a bit. 5 Live final score as well, which Champions League final score, which you can see on the iPlayer and the red button and the BBC Sport website. You will get the league table as it stands with John Murray and Chris Sutton's commentary from Paris. Some other bits of football news for you. Yuri Tillemans has been ruled out for up to 10 weeks with an ankle injury, which is another blow to Aston Villa. with John McGinn out as well. So because of that, Villa have re-signed Douglas Luiz on loan from Juventus for the rest of the season. West Ham have agreed a deal to sell Lucas Paquetá to Flamengo. That'll be worth around £35 million. They've signed Adama Traore today of West Ham from Fulham in a deal worth £2 million. Fulham will replace Adama Traore with Oscar Bob, the Manchester City winger, and a fee there has been agreed of around £27 million. In boxing, Tyson Fury is going to face Arslanbek Makhmudov in the UK on Saturday the 11th of April after his latest return from retirement, so that will be his first fight since he lost to Alexander Usyk in December 2024. And in rugby union, Bundy Aki has not travelled with the Ireland squad for their Six Nations training camp in Portugal because of disciplinary reasons. Right then, John Bennett, you're across absolutely everything else.
I'm going to try.
Yeah,
I'm going to try. Real Madrid will be one of the teams I'll be keeping an eye on, because Rory Smith, your Monday Night Club colleague, Mark, thinks there'll be an upset here. Benfica taking on Real Madrid.
Does he?
He does. I'm not sure where he's coming from really, because they won 6-1 Real Madrid against Monaco last time out. They're in a brilliant position to get through as well. They could even lose and still get through, but that is risky. Win guarantees it. Draw would probably be enough. But the interesting thing here is that Benfica, 29th, 6 points. They beat Napoli and Ajax over the last 3 Champions League games. They still have an opportunity of getting to the playoffs, and they are strong at home. Bellingham in midfield for Real Madrid, Mbappe, Vinicius Jr. and Mastantuono in attack. So Real Madrid will be very confident of top 8.
OK, Barcelona are at home to Copenhagen. You would expect them to win that and go into the top 8?
Yeah, definitely. Copenhagen have struggled in the Champions League, conceded 4 against Borussia Dortmund, conceded 4 against Spurs. So I would be shocked if Barcelona don't get into the top 8 tonight. Yamal starting, Lewandowski, Rafinha as well. So Copenhagen do have something to play for, 26th on 8 points, but that should be comfortable for Barcelona.
Sporting, Atletico Madrid, both also in with a chance of making the top 8. They are also on 13 points. Neither of them have got particularly easy fixtures, have they?
No, not easy at all. They're in that 13-point club, as you say. Sporting taking on Athletic Club, who have been poor in the Champions League, but they are unbeaten in their last 3. They're 23rd, so likely need a win for the playoffs. So both have to go for it. That's what I like about a lot of these games. Both teams having to go for it. It's the same with Atletico Madrid, who are 12, 13 points. They need a win to get into the top 8. And then Bodo Glimt, who, to be honest, need a miracle. But still, they beat Manchester City a week ago. So why not? Why not go for it? I think they will really go for this against Atletico Madrid.
It would take a lot, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they need a lot of favours. They need to even a win would probably not be enough. They need a lot of favours.
On this, I've had this amazing. The BBC Stats.
I need a copy of that.
BBC Stats people have done a phenomenal job this past week, and I have a whole league table with probabilities of if a team wins, draws, or loses, whether they can make top 24 or top 16 or top 8. And for Bodo Glimt, it just says even if they beat Atletico Madrid, very unlikely to make the top 24. There are some big games as well here in teams that are trying to jostle for, because it will be seeded as well. So
that's important. To get to the top half.
So final positions will be important. And so you've got Dortmund against Inter Milan, you've got Monaco against Juve.
Yeah, these two are the ones I'm really looking forward to. So Monaco, one of the teams who could drop out of the top 24. They're taking on Juventus, who have slim hopes in that top 8. But as you say, they want to be seeded. Then Dortmund against Inter. Both have slim hopes of the top 8. But Inter are a weird one because they started so well. They won 4 out of 4. Then they've lost their last 3. Tough opposition, Arsenal, Liverpool and Atletico Madrid. But they will really kick themselves if, as is likely, they don't get in the top 8.
Right then, John, good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Arsenal's women in action tonight, and that has just finished. That's the FIFA Women's Champions Cup, so that's the equivalent of the Men's Club World Cup. And in the semi-final, they have thrashed Rabat by 6-0. Corinthians won the other one earlier, beating Gotham by 1-0. So this is how it's going to work. If you want full commentary of Manchester City against Galatasaray, that is on Sports Extra. If you want Napoli against Chelsea, that right now is on Sports Extra 2. But here on 5 Live, we'll keep you across everything from Paris. Paris Saint-Germain against Newcastle. John Murray and Chris Sutton are there. Can you see anything other than a Paris Saint-Germain win here then, Chris?
Not really. I mean, I'm worried with Eddie Howe's team selection. You know, it's half a team. There's a bit of a white flag element, I think, from with that selection. And then you look at the PSG team, the stars which they have, in their lineup. If it clicks for them, which in fairness it hasn't all season.
No.
But if it does click, then I think Newcastle could be in for a long night.
They have had some wobbles at home, haven't they, John, in this competition? Bayern beat them. They sort of squeaked past Spurs in the end by 5-3. And actually, their last couple of games, albeit they've been away from home, they haven't been great.
Yeah, but they haven't lost a match at home in the league this season. Although they did lose to their neighbours from just across the way from here, Paris FC, in the Cup earlier this month. So 2 defeats here this season, Bayern Munich in the Champions League and Paris, which shows that it can be done. But just looking at this team tonight, he's got players coming back, Hakimi, Nuno Mendes, 2 of the most important players in the team, the 2 fullbacks, João Neves back into the midfield, and it just looks more, in actual fact, it's 8 of the team that started the Champions League final against Inter in Munich at the end of last season. So compared to Newcastle, as I said at the outset, it does look as though Paris Saint-Germain are strong favourites tonight.
If Eddie Howe is trying something different tonight, are you disappointed he hasn't tried to pair Voltemada and Wissa, Chris?
Not especially. I think they played together once. I think it may have been in the FA Cup. I might be wrong, but I think there was a feeling that with Voltemada, he drops. He likes to drop deep, and Wissa will be the centre forward who runs in behind. I don't think they linked up that well in that particular time. I mean, there's a Langer who has the burning pace for Newcastle. I've got to say it's a big night for Voltemada, because Newcastle have got to find a way to get up the pitch. The nature of the way that PSG will play, they will try and suffocate and smother Newcastle. They'll press them high. So Voltemada has a big part to play in the game. The issue Newcastle have is making sure if it is Willock off the left-hand side and a Langer off the right, that they get close enough to him and work off his little flicks.
Right, you have a big part to play as well. Are you going to be helping John with the as it stands?
I've been a big help to John all day. We've been discussing things all day, and I heard about the tiebreaker table this morning at breakfast. I've never knew there was such a thing.
And do you have that in front of you now?
No, I do not. I'm going to try and stay away from that. I have enough issues anyway, Mark.
Probably now's not the time to go into all of that. So this is how it'll work. Sports Extra 2, Napoli against Chelsea. Sports Extra, Manchester City against Galatasaray. Champions League final score on the iPlayer, on the BBC Sport website and app. You will get, hopefully, the as it stands table and the video printer alongside commentary from Paris. So here we go then. Paris Saint-Germain against Newcastle. And all we need to say, John Murray, good luck.
Yes, hold tight, everyone. And pay attention as well. There's going to be a lot of numbers in this commentary tonight in terms of positions in the league table. But we are here for the football. And this is, as I always say, one of the most vibrant football experiences that you will get anywhere in the Champions League, anywhere in Europe. There might be a huge club now, they might be the European champions, the winners for the first time of the Champions League last season in the brilliant style that they did. But Chris Sutton, this is a magnificent stadium to come to, the Parc des Princes. 2 tiers all the way round, blue, red and white. The flags, honestly, there are hundreds of them.
Yeah, it's a fantastic atmosphere, really vibrant, and a nice day in Paris today. That's a big night for Newcastle, big night for PSG. The winners know they're cemented in that top 8, which is important. We know that PSG did it a different way last season. 15th, I think they finished in the standings, and then all of a sudden they got that momentum, built that momentum, and went on to storm the final, didn't they, against Inter? Absolutely walloped them 5-0, and they haven't got going yet this season, really, by their high standards. So, you know, maybe tonight is the night.
Yep, beat Manchester City here last January, on the way to getting through, and then a hat-trick of knockouts against the English clubs on the way to the final in Munich. But Newcastle United have been here before. Remember when they beat them in the last season of the old Champions League format, 4-1 at St James's Park. Eddie Howe was telling us yesterday that one of the greatest nights that he's had as Newcastle United's manager. And Dan Burn, who scored one of the goals that night, is back this evening as the captain. Bruno Guimaraes is only a substitute, and he's shaking hands with Marquinhos down on the halfway line next to the referee Slavko Vincic from Slovenia. So the smoke is just beginning to clear inside the big concrete bowl here of the Parc des Princes. And we have 18 Champions League matches about to kick off simultaneously in 9 different countries on this final night of the league phase of this season's Champions League. Of the 36 clubs, only 2 know right now they will definitely be in the last 16, Arsenal and Bayern Munich. Only 4 of the 36 cannot progress at all. Kairat, Arsenal's opponents, Villarreal, Slavia Prague and Eintracht Frankfurt, Tottenham's opponents. For the other 30 this evening, it's all to play for. And all the teams down to Juventus in 15th are sure to go through at least to next month's knockout playoff round. We have no fewer than 8 teams on 13 points vying for a place in the top 8, and these are 2 of them, PSG and Newcastle United, who start 6th and 7th in the table. So commentary coming from here in Paris. PSG against Newcastle United right now on Sports Extra. You will hear Manchester City Galatasaray right now on Sports Extra 2. We will bring you commentary on Napoli Chelsea. But we begin here in the Parc des Princes, and Newcastle United just looking to see if it is going to be 3 central defenders. Yep. And they would appear to be. They did try and pull a flanker in the warm-up with a back 4 and Chow at right back, but it is Lewis Miley who is going to operate as the right wing back, Chris.
Yeah, they didn't fool us, John, yet. Lewis Miley out in that right wing back position. He's been such an important player for Eddie Howe with his versatility. You have Tonali and Ramsey sitting in front of that back 5.
And Miley now is beaten to it by Barcola, who's able to play the ball across. It might have struck an arm inside the box as it bounced back to Miley. The referee was right there. PSG players are looking, going towards the referee and saying, how about that for handball and a penalty in the first minute? The referee is saying no. Well, what do you think?
Well, I think as the ball comes back, I think off Botman, it bounces up. I'm not so sure whether it hit Barcola's hand first, but I'm pretty sure it did hit Lewis Miley's hand.
It did. It depends whether they consider that to be a natural motion, and there was a deflection off Barcola onto the arm of... And remember, the last time Newcastle played here, right at the end, they conceded a penalty for handball, which has been disputed since then. Livramento it was, and Mbappe scored a penalty in the 8th minute of added time to make that match 1-1. And VAR continue to look at this. It's a German video assistant referee, Christian Dingert, who is watching the pictures, and we just wait here. Already VAR drama in the Champions League, and of course, as we know, very often it's more likely, oh, there is the rectangle in the air, the referee's been called across. And just like last time for Newcastle, here in the Parc des Princes in the Champions League, it looks as though they're going to get a very debatable handball penalty given against them.
Yeah, it's going to be harsh on Newcastle if this is awarded. The ball bounces up, Barcola plays it into Botman, it bounces up, it hits Barcola on his right elbow, and then Miley, his arm is outstretched, hits him on the hand. It's like a sort of tennis swing. It does hit him on the hand, but they deemed the first handball from Barcola as his arm in a natural position, I suppose.
Here's the decision. Yes, it's a penalty to Paris Saint-Germain. Worst possible start for Newcastle, although the ball's not in the net yet, and it's Vitinha who's got the ball in his hands, and he has the most individual style of penalty taking. That if he uses it tonight, that sort of creeping up to the ball. I remember David Raya saving a penalty from him here in the semi-final last season. So it is Vitinha, who's waiting next to the penalty spot, and the referee is going to have to sort this out, get all of the players out of the penalty area. I mean, honestly, this turn of events, for it to happen to them right at the end of the match, last time they were here, the handball.
Dembele, I think.
And it's actually Dembele who's been given the ball and is going to take the penalty. After a controversial handball in the first minute against the right wing-back tonight, Lewis Miley. Arsenal are already winning 1-0 against Kairat. We'll be there for that. But here we are on what was always going to be a tough night for Newcastle. Paris Saint-Germain now in the 4th minute of the match have the chance with the Ballon d'Or winner himself, Ousmane Dembele, who's standing just outside the penalty area in the D. The ball's on the spot. Nick Pope, the goalkeeper. Dembele, it's saved! Nick Pope saves it, leaping to his left, pushes it round the post, on his feet, a low fist bump from him, and Newcastle are still at 0-0.
That's a brilliant save from Pope, down to his left-hand side, that big frame of his. Dembele straight run up, went to Pope's left-hand side, huge save from Pope.
Offside flag up against PSG after they take the corner and swing it in, and it is free kick to Newcastle, and I have to say, it does feel as though a little bit of justice was done with Nick Pope's left-handed penalty save. Right, so I told you Arsenal were winning 1-0, Gyökeres scoring in the 2nd minute. Athletic Bilbao are 1-0 up on Sporting. And also in the Barcelona-Copenhagen match, Maz Farouki is monitoring it.
And a very unexpected scoreline. Barcelona 0, Copenhagen 1. A really lovely finish from one of their forwards, Dardison. Real composure and confident start from Copenhagen. They lead by a goal to 0 at the Camp Nou, and that puts a dent in Barcelona's hopes of course, finishing in the top 8.
Thank you very much, Maz. So there's a shock already, and here already intense action, as has very often been the way with PSG in this stadium. Strange things happen, strange events here, as almost all of the English clubs will tell you. Those matches last season, the Manchester City defeat here when they were 2-0 up and lost 4-2 in the penultimate match of the group stage. PSG finding a way through, then losing that incredible game against Liverpool when Alisson had the night of his life, and then Aston Villa coming here and losing 3-1 in the first leg. Arsenal losing both matches. And Arsenal this season heading towards the top of the table, going through as group winners. John Southall.
It's Arsenal 1, Kairat 0, as you said. John Gyökeres with a goal, but Kairat have a penalty. Jorginho standing up to take it, and he's put it into the bottom right-hand corner, and the couple of thousand fans are going mad opposite me. 3,000-mile trip to get here, and they're celebrating an equaliser. Arsenal 1, Kairat 1.
And from Arsenal's match to Tottenham's match, John Akers.
Eintracht Frankfurt 0, Spurs 0. Spurs have had the ball in the net, but it was ruled out by the video assistant referee for offside in the build-up. It was Xavi Simons with the finish. Eintracht Frankfurt 0, Spurs 0.
So in the table right now, it is as you were, with the scorelines as they were in terms of the top 8. The top 8 at the start of play remain that way, so Newcastle and Chelsea are still in there. And with the scores, Manchester City have actually inched up a place to 10th. They started at 11th. Manchester City this evening know that they need to win against Galatasaray and hope that other results go their way. Club Brugge winning 1-0 against Marseille. Club Brugge starting down in 27th place. And remember, you need to be in the top 24 to get through into the next stage of the competition, into the knockout stages, that initial knockout playoff round between the teams 9th to 24th next month. PSG on the attack from left to right in the almost all dark blue kit. Kvaratskhelia plays it infield. Vitinha with the chance. Oh, he scored! Right foot shot into the bottom corner. Pope saved the penalty. He couldn't keep that out, diving down to his left. Right in the bottom corner. Never mind the penalty miss. Vitinha scores and PSG do lead 1-0 in the 8th minute against Newcastle.
And they kept the ball brilliantly. I don't know how many passes PSG made, but Newcastle pressed them high up the pitch and they just played through them beautifully. Ball come out to the right and then a bit of space for Vitinha, who did brilliantly. Just a little dummy on the edge of the box, gave him the space to shoot, and he finds the corner, and Nick Pope this time couldn't get down quickly enough to his left-hand side. Brilliant accuracy from the strike. A little jink past Lewis Hall, and bang, 1-0 PSG.
So PSG leading Newcastle by 1-0. Paris Saint-Germain win this tonight. The holders almost certainly will be through as one of the top 8. What about Manchester City? Ian Dennis.
Well, that goal there for you in Paris means that Manchester City have just moved into the top 8. It's Manchester City 0, Galatasaray 0. Haaland with an early header. He put it wide about a foot of the far post from an 8-Nori cross on the left. 0-0.
Yep, Manchester City are now into 8th position. So Manchester City have gone above Newcastle, who've dropped down to 11th with the scorelines as they are. So Manchester City would be going through directly to the round of 16. Newcastle would face that playoff round next month. But it is Newcastle in the black and white striped shirts, white shorts, white socks. Lewis Miley, corner of the penalty area. Lewis Hall, corner of the penalty area, takes it on, gets the crossover. Almost the first time that Newcastle have been inside the PSG penalty area, and goalkeeper Safonov was able to catch the ball at the near post. So Manchester City 0, Galatasaray 0. It is 1-0 to PSG here against Newcastle. Arsenal 1, Kairat 1. And as for Chelsea in Italy against Napoli, Chris Coles.
Napoli 0, Chelsea 0. Chelsea up to 7th as it stands, given that Paris Saint-Germain goal. But Napoli have made a good start. They very nearly took the lead with Sanchez clearing it straight into the head of Højlund. And fortunately for Chelsea, over the bar it went. Napoli 0, Chelsea 0.
Yes, with Newcastle going behind and dropping down the table, that has edged Chelsea up to 7th. Corner for PSG here in Paris. But back to Manchester, Ian Dennis.
Manchester City lead Galatasaray by 1-0. Doku with a through ball. Erling Haaland latched onto it and left-footed chipped the ball over the advancing goalkeeper. City, with results going their way, lead 1-0.
And Manchester City now up to 6th in the table with the scores as they are, having jumped up and taken the lead. So so far, very good night for Manchester City, Chris.
Yeah, it is. Only early days though, John.
Very early.
Happen?
Very early days. If it carries on like this is going to be some evening. As the ball's played forward for Barcola, left side of the penalty area, down into the Newcastle right back position. And then back just outside the penalty area, comes back centrally. Dembele is there, little ball into the box. Dembele gets it back, lovely. Dembele shot, good save, Pope. The ball has been deflected to the edge of the penalty area, but Tonali gets there for Newcastle, and that's another very good save from Nick Pope in the Newcastle goal after an excellent move from PSG. Vintage Luis Enrique PSG.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Some of the passing, the interchanging. Dembele a little give and go and drives on the inside of the box, gets on his right foot, tries to find the far corner, and that's the second big save from Nick Pope this evening.
So 1-0 it remains. Pope saved the penalty, saved that shot from Dembele, but he couldn't keep out the shot from Vitinha. Where are we going to go next on this hectic night? Yeah, what about Anfield? Lee Blakeman.
Liverpool 0, Karabakh 0. Liverpool lost Frimpong to a groin injury inside 2 minutes, and they've just gone close through Ekitike, putting one wide from the edge of the area. Liverpool 0, Karabakh 0.
So 0-0 there. Manchester City winning 1-0 with the goal from Erling Haaland. Newcastle 1 down here, and that means that and I see as well Sporting have equalised against Athletic Bilbao. So Athletic 1, Sporting 1. Also Bayer Leverkusen winning 1-0 against Villarreal, who cannot go through, and Club Brugge now 2-0 up against Marseille. Let's just have a little look at the table to see how that affects things as PSG just play the ball back to goalkeeper Safonov. Chevalier on the bench tonight, so Safonov is getting a start here, and just the one cross to take so far as PSG come forward now. Central position. Vitinha plays it out, Zaire Emery plays it out towards the left-hand side. Oh, excellent play. Barcola down the left side. João Neves is in the middle, goes back to the edge of the box. Vitinha beats Tonali, across, Kvaratskhelia, left foot shot, but it's straight at Pope, who's able to go down and just pat it dead.
Yeah, Vitinha once again on the edge of the Newcastle box, shapes to shoot, just drifts past a Newcastle defender, Feeds it back to Kvaratskhelia, and left-footed. That's a tame effort by his standards. Newcastle just can't get any sustained possession. It's just
ominous,
coming
Chris,
back.
isn't it? Ominous.
It is.
PSG playing.
Newcastle pressing PSG high, but PSG playing around them, through them fairly easily in these opening stages.
This Newcastle team tonight: Nick Pope in goal, Chow, Botman and Byrne, the three central defenders, Miley and Hall, the wing-backs, Ramsey and Tonali in the middle, Alanga and Willock either side of Voltemada. So Bruno Guimaraes is on the bench, Gordon, Wissa, Barnes, Trippier, all substitutes tonight, and no Joe Linton as well, remember, who wasn't able to travel here to Paris. Just wonder what the Newcastle fans, thousands of them, in the corner of the Parc des Princes thought when they heard that starting lineup tonight. And the way that the match has started, really, it will be a wonder if Newcastle are able to get anything out of this. And currently in the table, Newcastle are outside the top 8, down in 12th place. Here, however, is Joe Willock for Newcastle, who swings over the cross. Safanov gets a hand to it, comes out for the left-footed shot by Miley, but he rather snatched at it. It wouldn't come down for him, and by the time he volleyed it, it was probably waist high, and it flew away over the top of the bar.
Yeah, that was a chance for Newcastle, though. Safanov doesn't cover himself in glory, the goalkeeper. Just with his right hand palms the ball out to Lewis Miley. He can't get that left hip up high enough, and it's the bouncing ball high and wide. But the first real chance for Newcastle, that.
So 1-0 to PSG. This is 5 Live from the BBC. Listen as well via BBC Sounds if you're on the move to 5 Live on there. And the red button is in action tonight as Hakimi, now on his return to PSG, bursts down the right and then pulls the ball across into the path of Chow, who's able to control it calmly and play it away to Lewis Hall. From Paris back to Liverpool, and Lee Blakeman.
From Szoboszlai from the left, McAllister got there, back post, just put it over the line. Liverpool need a win to be sure, and they're on their way at the moment. Liverpool 1, Qarabag 0.
PSG with the ball just outside the Newcastle box. Back it comes to Dembele. He's got Barkler ahead of him. Dembele curls it in, just a flicked header away by Botman, which took it away and behind for a corner. Newcastle stretched again, Chris. Corner to PSG. Back to Arsenal, though. John Southall.
Arsenal 2, Kyrat 1. Havertz, Kai Havertz back in the side, cut in from the right, cut inside the defender and curled it into the bottom left corner. Arsenal 2, Kyrat 1.
And it is a corner then for PSG. Liverpool are up to 3rd in the table now with that goal. Here's the corner from Kvaratskhelia, headed away for Newcastle. A stretch away on the edge of the box, headed forward by Elanga, and now forward from Ramsey, but PSG deal with that on the halfway line, and here they come again, already creating a raft of chances. So with the scorelines as they are, it's quite dramatically changed. Atletico Madrid are winning 1-0 against Buda Glimt. So the Norwegians right up against it now. Paphos winning as well, 1-0 against Slavia Prague. So in the table right now, Arsenal would be going through as winners of the league phase, but Liverpool are in 3rd, and we should point out that finishing in the top 4 is significant as well, because that will guarantee you a home match 2nd in the round of 16 and the quarter-finals as well. And if you're Arsenal, you'll be at home all the way through the 2-legged stage of the competition, as long as they stay in it. Also, Manchester City now 6th and Tottenham in 8th position. So currently Chelsea in 9th, Newcastle in 12th. They are outside the top 8. So Newcastle with the ball, with Elanga, going back to Lewis Miley and then back towards the halfway line. Whistles and jeers, a rare spell of Newcastle possession, just to try and ease some of this pressure, Chris.
Yeah, but PSG, they're happy to get after Newcastle. Lewis Hall just overruns the ball there, and here they come again, PSG. But
however, won back by Ramsey, played forward for Elanga, but quick from Pacho at the back. William Pacho, the Ecuadorian central defender, who was able to come across, and even though Elanga has the speed, Pacho beat him to it, and PSG come forward again. This Paris team, Safanov in goal, Hakimi, Marquinhos, Pacho and Nuno Mendes, so the 2 fullbacks back in the team. They've had injuries, of course. Hakimi's just back from Morocco, Zaire Emery, Vitinha and João Neves in midfield. Fabian Ruiz hasn't made it for this, but he's nearly back as well. Then Kvaratskhelia, who set up the goal, which was tucked away nicely by Vitinha on the right, Barcola on the left, and Ballon d'Or man Dembele through the middle.
Yeah, and Dembele doesn't play as a conventional centre-forward. He used to play off the wide areas, but Luis Enrique likes him as a centre-forward, but you see him dropping deep here, and at times the three Newcastle centre-halves don't have anybody to mark.
So it is PSG who have the ball in the centre circle, and João Neves, another who's just returning after injury, turning and falling as he plays a pass down the left for Barclay to chase, but he can't reach that, and it's out of play for a throw-in to Newcastle. It has been a feature that many of these PSG players have had injuries at one time or another during the course of this season, so haven't really completely hit their straps yet this season. In fact, Lens were top of the table until PSG won at Auxerre on Friday night. A foul on Alanga as he was tracking the ball across the pitch from right to left, but Kvaratskhelia has stayed down on the ground and looks as though he's come off worst in this. And actually, referee Vintage has pulled out a yellow card for Alanga for that challenge. Get a word from Chris on that in a moment. But first, more on Napoli-Chelsea from Chris Coles.
Where Chelsea lead in Naples, Enzo Fernandez has scored from the penalty spot, given for handball from a free kick. Fernandez into the corner, and Chelsea, who had been out of the top 8, are now back in it. Napoli 0, Chelsea 1.
Yeah, Chelsea are back in it, but now Tottenham are outside it. Tottenham have dropped down to 9th with the scores as they are. So of the English clubs, the 6 English clubs, first time there's ever been 6 teams from one country in the Champions League proper. Arsenal top of the table currently, Liverpool 3rd, Chelsea 6th, Manchester City 7th, and then Tottenham 9th, and with this scoreline here, Newcastle down in 12th, and Kvaratskhelia still receiving treatment. But to Anfield, Lee Blakeman.
Liverpool are cruising now. They lead Karabakh 2-0. Ball to Wirtz, hit it 18 yards out, bottom corner. Liverpool 2, Karabakh 0.
Kvaratskhelia still receiving treatment. So let's bring in John Bennett, who's monitoring all the other matches. What's catching your eye, John?
Well, Real Madrid are 5th at the moment, 0-0 against Benfica, but Benfica have had a penalty turned down on VAR, and they've just hit the bar, and that big goal for Atletico Madrid, Soloth with the goal. So they're up to 8th. They lead Atletico Madrid 1-0 in their game. So they're in the top 8 as it stands.
Well, I mentioned PSG's injury difficulties this season, and there is concern, Chris, over Kvaratskhelia after that challenge from Elanga, when the ball sort of got away from Elanga and the two of them collided.
It did, but Newcastle were awarded the free kick, weren't they? And yet Elanga is receiving a yellow card. You're right, he overran the ball, and then he lunged and just towed the ball away from Kvaratskhelia, who made the challenge, and he's gone over on his ankle, and now a couple of minutes treatment. The old magic spray out there.
Yep, so still a stoppage here in Paris. 21 minutes played. PSG leading Newcastle by 1-0. So as I mentioned, Tottenham currently outside the top 8. They're in Germany tonight playing Eintracht Frankfurt, who can't go through. They will be eliminated after the league phase. How's it looking with Tottenham, John Akers?
Frankfurt not playing like a side who are out of it and 33rd in the table, but Spurs have had opportunities. They've had a goal ruled out by the video assistant referee Xavi Simons, and Paulinho has had a good header saved by the goalkeeper. But it's Eintracht Frankfurt 0, Spurs 0.
Yes, and currently Tottenham 9th place in the table, so would be going into the playoff round. That is it for Kvaratskhelia, and he's had to be helped off the field by two of the coaching staff, arms round their shoulders, and hopping on his left leg with his right leg suspended above the ground as he moves.
But unless Elanga said something to the referee, how has he been booked when Newcastle were awarded the free kick in this situation, as Nick Pope floats a long ball towards?
Yep, free kick, which was Newcastle's free kick, which, again, it's very strange. PSG are able to clear it away downfield. So, Desiree Doué is on the field, Chris, who we saw score 2 goals in the Champions League final so brilliantly in Munich. Here he is, the number 14. It's not a bad replacement.
It's amazing, isn't it? You don't feel like PSG have been weakened with the loss of Kvaratskhelia.
You do not. So, however, in the wider scheme of things, to lose Kvaratskhelia for any team is not good news, and it did not look good for him, the Georgian. As PSG are able to win it back again. João Neves, then forward from Hakimi. Now he has Dembele on the edge of the area, challenged by Chao. He went down, wanted a free kick. Referee's not interested in that. Here's Voltemada. Barely been involved in the game, but there again, PSG have dominated possession. Tonali takes it forward, down the right-hand side, but he is superbly dealt with by Zaire Emery, who is having a very good season. The 19-year-old, adaptable as well. He's played at right back. Actually, Zaire Emery, more than he's played in midfield this season, with Hakimi being absent. Now he's in midfield, and that was excellent play. It was like taking candy from the proverbial baby.
Well, it wasn't. You know, Tonali, such a powerhouse in that Newcastle midfield. You don't see that too often. Tonali on the drive there. Zaire Emery just easing past him and nicking the ball off him.
So it is 1-0 to PSG. Arsenal 2-1 up on Kairat. Liverpool 2-0 up on Karabag. Manchester City 1-0 against Galatasaray. Chelsea winning in Naples against Antonio Conte's Italian champions. Fernandez's goal. So that means Chelsea are in 6th currently, Manchester City 7th, and Tottenham, as I say, 9th, Newcastle 12th. PSG in possession. Barcelona losing at home to Copenhagen last we heard, so they're missing out on the top 8. Maz Farouki.
Yeah, real frustration for Barcelona, John. Half chances for Rafinha, for Yamal, a scramble from a corner as well, but that goal from a 17-year-old from Copenhagen, Victor Tharperson, giving them the 1-0 lead at Camp Nou. Barcelona stay outside the top 8 at the moment.
Yes, that's one of the stories of the night. Barcelona missing out on the top 8, but of course would be going through to the playoff round, like both of these teams. But Newcastle, with this scoreline, would face 2 more matches. Here's Hall for Newcastle, high foot given against Newcastle. They're looking mystified. Dan Burn, palms apart.
Well, there's always a high foot when he puts his leg up, isn't it? It's slightly harsh there.
Starts high and gets higher. So PSG take this free kick back towards the edge of their own penalty area. Paris Saint-Germain, with the scores as they are at the moment, they would be going through in the top 4.
Always got an overload though, and a lot of that comes down to Dembele dropping deep. Look at that pace again from Barcola.
Barcola away from Miley, still going. Miley just is able to get a touch on the ball and prevent him getting into the penalty area, but Dembele's onto this again. He'll feel like a man on a mission, having already had a penalty saved tonight. Plays it back to the goal scorer, Vitinha. Now here's Hakimi. Remember, he scored the opening goal in the Champions League final in Munich. João Neves, the stocky little Portuguese. João Neves with the curly hair to Hakimi, and then PSG go back into the centre circle and start again. Certainly caught the eye of what's caught my eye. The orange-jacketed stewards have appeared over on the far side of the stadium, coming down one of the entrances and putting themselves into position. I'm not sure what that's about. As João Neves takes a throw just down in front of us. Marquinhos, the man who lifted this trophy last season, the experienced number 5, the Brazilian captain as well for Ancelotti. 509 appearances now, club record for Marquinhos, the central defender. Then it's played forward towards the edge of the box. Barcola's in business again, up against Chao, just about got a foot on that and prevented Barcola taking it on. And then a foul on Ramsey and a free kick for Newcastle halfway inside their own half.
Chao did brilliantly, because Barcola on that left-hand side is always going to try and come inside on his right foot. Defended it strongly, but Newcastle winning the free kick. Their issue has been getting up the pitch. We knew that PSG would be aggressive and get after this Newcastle team and press them high. Voldemar hasn't been in the game too much. Doesn't have that great pace to run in behind. That pace has to come from the wide areas from Willock and Elanga.
That's the voice of Chris Sutton with us here in the Parc des Princes. Champions League goal scorer, Premier League winner. It feels like PSG have just taken a little bit of a breather, and of course they've been disrupted as well by the injury to Kvaratskhelia, but that's very them as well, isn't it? That intense 15-20 minutes or so that you'll see from them during the course of a match.
And Vitinha in the middle of the park is just controlling the game, controlling everything, dictating the tempo.
Yes, very, very good player, the former Wolves loanee.
That's amazing, isn't it? With respect to Wolves.
We'll never forget Vitinha scoring from 30 yards at Chorley's Victory Park. As Manchester City, Ian Dennis
increase their lead. Manchester City 2, Galatasaray 0. Ryan Cherky, ball cut back from the left-hand side and placed it just on the inside of the left-hand post. Once again, it was Doku who is the provider. They lead 2-0. Now they just need results to continue to go their way.
Yes, they're doing their bit, Manchester City. That was the equation for them as Dembele flicks the ball through, but it runs all the way through to Nick Pope in the Newcastle penalty area, who can pick it up. But yes, Manchester City needed to win and hope results went their way. Currently, they are Manchester City 7th in the ever-moving table. Chris Sutton.
Yeah, that's a better kick from Nick Pope. The one before he kicked straight to Hakimi on the right-hand side for PSG, but that one actually got up to Voldemort. A good strength there from Willock.
Tonali playing the pass forward for Willock, but he eased into the back of Hakimi, who went sprawling down. He's furious, Willock, but the free kick is given against him.
So is Eddie Howe, is saying, come on, it's shoulder to shoulder. And I think Willock is unlucky there. Hakimi's a strong player, isn't he? But goes down there. Willock too strong.
So it is a free kick to PSG in their right back position. Athletic Bilbao are now 2-1 up on Sporting. And Athletic Bilbao were in danger. They were down in 23rd at the start of the evening. They're now up to 18th. Free kick for PSG that Safonov will take. Right-footed up towards the halfway line, where Lewis challenges Doué, and then it's headed back into the PSG half. Voltemada just nips the ball back from Vitinha. Voltemada to the edge of the penalty area. Little pass to his left to Willock. Willock taking it on. It's very crowded. The cross is deflected and it drops at the back post. Defender Nuno Mendes was there and he was able to just get the crucial touch against Elanga. And PSG have been able to clear it away, and they will break away. Once again, PSG trying to use that intense pace that they've got, but an excellent tackle by Miley puts it out for a throw-in on the halfway line. Now, John Bennett, what news from you?
Benfica 0, Real Madrid 1, Kylian Mbappe with the goal, so Real Madrid back up to 3rd place and they're on their way to guaranteeing a place in the top 8. It's Benfica 0, Real Madrid 1, Kylian Mbappe.
Yeah, so the top 4 right now would be Arsenal, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid and Liverpool. So PSG have just dropped down to 5th with that Real Madrid goal. And I do think, Chris, it's significant, that advantage of being in the top 4 and getting your second matches at home further down the road in the knockout stages.
As long as you don't get a heavy beating away.
Well, there is that.
The first one.
You'd still prefer generally to be at home in the second leg. As Dembele wins a free kick against Voltemada, and Voltemada just watches as PSG play this free kick across the halfway line.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, you said a moment or two ago, things just seem to have settled down a little bit for Newcastle. I probably shouldn't say that because PSG are just likely to carve them open.
Dembele again in a deep line position, curling it forward. What a good player he is, and he's another one who's missed spells of this season, a couple of different injuries. He's not the top scorer. Gonzalo Ramos is the top scorer for PSG this season, as Newcastle have to work their way out of a tricky position there inside their own box. But Ramsey did well, but then Chow misplaces the pass. It was a little short to Elanga, and it's been won back by Nuno Mendes. He's pouring forward, left foot shot, but it's straight at Pope, just outside the area, and he was able to gather it into his midriff.
It just opened up for Nuno Mendes. Really poor pass from Chow. Actually, Newcastle worked it well from the back. Elanga has that pace. The ball had to go aerially, it didn't, and Nuno Mendes just drives back, sees the space, 25 yards out, left-hand side of the box, powers a shot, but straight at Pope.
Over half an hour played. Paris Saint-Germain 1-0 up against Newcastle. The early goal from Vitinha after Dembele's penalty had been saved. Nuno Mendes pouring forward. When you see him on one side and Hakimi on the other, I mean, they're a force of nature. Anthony Gordon was saying yesterday that he reckons Hakimi, in terms of players that Gordon has played against, he says he's the best because he can defend and he can attack.
Absolutely, yeah, I think that's the key. You see a lot of full-backs who like to go forward, but how are they in 1v1 situations?
Well, here is Hakimi. And we've got Doué down here, hugging the white line, right on the right wing. Hakimi more centrally, gives it to Doué, who now begins to drift in field. Doué's 20 years old now, left his teenage years behind him. Dembele with gloves on. It's actually not too cold here tonight. Quite a mild night for the end of January. Damp though, dry currently. Marquinhos and then Vitinha. And there has been another goal in the Napoli-Chelsea match. Chris Coles.
And it is an equaliser for Napoli. Napoli 1, Chelsea 1. Vergara with it. Brilliant spin inside the penalty area to get away from his marker. Slotting into Sanchez, bottom corner. 1-1, and this drops Chelsea back out of the top 8.
It does, but it lifts Tottenham back into the top 8. So we're seeing Tottenham and Chelsea at the moment vying for a place in the top 8, which would qualify you directly for the round of 16. So Tottenham in 8th would be going straight into the round of 16. Chelsea would be missing out. Throw in for PSG. Long throw in a stretch, just getting his toe to it. Botman, however, Barcola has the ball at his feet. Now Dembele, back it goes, 25 yards out, square to Hakimi, who gives it away to Voltemada. Newcastle will very gratefully accept that, although PSG very quickly back in position, and Newcastle not really in a position there to counter with pace.
Gotta say, it's a real amateur hour from Newcastle, the way they nearly got done with just one long throw from Mendes to Barkley. I mean, it's really important Bobber got his foot to that.
So 1-0 to PSG. We will have the television clips available from 10 o'clock, as ever in the Champions League, on the BBC, on the various platforms. Champions League match of the day tonight, don't miss that. BBC One or any time on the iPlayer. And we're going to hear more now from John Akers, who's monitoring the Tottenham match in Germany.
Spurs have hit the post. Frankfurt 0, Spurs 0, but it was a brilliant strike from Odeberg. He's hit the post with his left foot from the edge of the D, inside of the post, ricocheted out, and Simons has had a good chance for Spurs as well, but it's still 0-0.
Newcastle on the back foot again, Miley, and then just about working away for Chow centrally, where Willock is able to take it on, but João Neves is able to do his job and is able to come across and just get a touch on it to put it out of play. Bayer Leverkusen now 2-0 up on Villarreal, so strengthening their position in the top 24. And Buda Glimt have equalised, Chris. Showvolt has scored to make it Atletico Madrid 1, Buda Glimt 1, and the result of that also benefits Chelsea, because that takes Chelsea up a place into the top 8. That's right, isn't it, John Bennett?
That's right, and we've got a goal for Benfica as well. Benfica 1, Real Madrid 1, so an equaliser for Benfica, who are chasing a place in the playoffs. Real Madrid, a draw would probably be enough, but it's getting a bit nervy. Benfica 1, Real Madrid 1.
And we have currently 5 of the 6 English clubs in the top 8. So only Newcastle, currently 11th, are outside the top 8 positions. There's no immediate sign, is there, Chris, of Newcastle improving their position in the table?
PSG in total control. Newcastle looking a bit more solid now at the back. Maybe the substitution was a bit of a disruption for PSG, but aren't playing with the sparkle they did in the early stages. Dembele's the one who's causing Newcastle all sorts of problems. I mentioned they've got 3 centre-halves, Newcastle, and PSG 1 centre-forward who doesn't play up against the centre-halves. There he is, picking the ball up in behind that Newcastle midfield. Yeah, Dembele's done just about everything right, apart from having his penalty save, but that was an excellent penalty save by Nick Pope, full length. Plays the ball forward for Barcola, who's able to win a corner off Lewis Miley. And he's proving himself to be a very adaptable player, Miley. Right back, right wing back, midfielder. Corner to PSG then. Going to go to Arsenal in a moment. Once we see this corner taken, which they do short, Dembele then plays it back into the middle of the half. Nuno Mendes is there, the Portuguese left back, the flyer. Hit the ball at his feet, the challenge comes in on him, which is a good one from Ramsey. Still Nuno Mendes though, Alanga as well. The ball runs free, it's played across into the area. Pacho on his left foot, but high over the top of the crossbar and behind, bouncing on the big blue carpet behind the goal.
that is being defended by Newcastle and Nick Pope. So back to the Emirates and John Southall.
As Martinelli almost squeezes in the fourth goal, it's Arsenal 3, Kairat 1. Havertz with the ball across the 6-yard box, and there was Martinelli at the back post on the line. Long VAR check for offside, but goal given. Arsenal heading for the perfect 8. Arsenal 3, Kairat 1.
Yeah, 8 wins out of 8, with the first time they've ever won 8 matches in a row, Arsenal, in the Champions League. So Arsenal and Bayern Munich at the moment set for the top 2 positions, as we knew. Liverpool and PSG, 3rd and 4th currently. PSG losing possession. Voltemada is there, 3 players around him, but he flicks it out to the far side. Then Tonali through the middle. Elanga is there. Back it comes to Willock. Newcastle in possession in the PSG defensive third. This has been a rare sight as Elanga plays it across the edge of the box. Tonali still just outside the PSG penalty area. Dan Burn making his return tonight after his broken rib and punctured lung. He's been out, Chris, just 2 months with broken rib and punctured lung in the derby match against Sunderland, and here he is coming back into the action in the Parc des Princes in the Champions League, and here he is actually flicking it forward for Voltemada, and Voltemada likewise can play it out for Elanga, who's on the left wing currently, and thinks he's won a throw-in off Hakimi. Referee's seen it otherwise. It's a throw-in for PSG. 1-0 the European Champions League.
I think it was actually Doué who was doing a defensive job there. Elanga, who's been on the periphery of the game, really drifting out to this left-hand side there. You've got to say Newcastle in an attacking sense haven't really threatened the PSG goal, but I suppose if you offered Eddie Howe 1-0 to go in at half-time now, 1-0 down, I think he'd take that. They've hung on in there somehow.
Yeah, he'd take that with the saves that have been made by Nick Pope. Dan Burn running the ball along the halfway line. Miley in an advanced position. Newcastle suddenly showing more confidence, more thought of going forward. And Willock gives it to Elanga, who's still on the left wing. He takes on Hakimi. He beats Hakimi, but the cross is over the arriving Miley inside the penalty area. Chow's behind him. Miley's got the ball at his feet in those mint green boots. Then it's back out to Chow. And Newcastle all the way back to Dan Burn, just forward of the centre circle. Then the pass to Elanga. Elanga, corner of the box. Yeah, he actually had the ball there to play to Lewis Hall, but didn't. He could have done. Elanga and Hall.
That's a waste. I mean, it's good possession from Newcastle, but they've got Voltemada in the middle there, all 6'6" of him.
Willock, Voltemada, now Ramsey, but Ramsey, as the challenge came in on him actually from Zaire Emery, he overhit the pass to Miley, who's done well to keep it in, and actually done very well to win a throw-in near the corner flag. Throw-in to Newcastle, who are finally showing something.
Yeah, good little spell for Newcastle just before half-time, penning PSG back. Have they got a long throw here? Yeah, I think they have. Lewis Hall going out there. Very Premier League, the long throw, isn't it?
Yes, Anthony Gordon sitting down there on the substitutes bench. I mean, what will he be thinking of this after what he said yesterday? All those long throws in the Premier League. It's not like that in the Champions League.
They've got their own towel
They've
as
got
well.
the towels as well. They've brought the towels from Tyneside. So Lewis Hall, let's have a look at his long throw. Looping to the near post, flicked on, ball bounces up, might have struck an arm in there as well, you know, when it was flicked on by Voltemada, although they're not making much of that. Tonali, left-footed and forward. Tonali again, just drives it out of play for a throw into PSG.
I may be wrong, but I think Voltemada's got to score that. It's a really good flick from Dan Burn initially. Voltemada, he's 5 yards out, misses his header completely. It does hit the hand of Marquinhos, whose hand, I think, you wouldn't say that's in a natural position there.
Well, hang on a minute, Chris. If a penalty's given against Newcastle for Miley's handball, VAR must be looking at that. Dembele, PSG coming forward. It's João Neves to Desiree Doué. Lovely little trick from him, flick of the feet, tried to play it through, it was blocked on the edge of the penalty area. Remains to be seen if VAR will call the referee's attention to this, perhaps when the ball goes out of play. And I think Jason Tindall down there,
yeah.
I'm looking at Jason Tindall down on the side of the pitch, he's saying to the fourth official, he's actually tapping his arm, they've looked at it, they think that they have a case, just watching the Slovenian referee.
Wow. I mean, have the VAR team nipped out for a French pastry as that long throw was being taken? Who knows? But you're right, that it was the outstretched nature of Marquinhos' arm.
Well,
What's different?
I'm not sure. As PSG with Dembele, it's headed infield by Barcola. João Neves is onto this, still down in the Newcastle right back area. Newcastle losing 1-0 here. Arsenal on the way to victory. They're 3-1 up against Kairat. Still Frankfurt 0, Tottenham 0, Liverpool 2-0 against Karabag, and Manchester City, who've been the big movers of the night with their lead 2-0 against Galatasaray. They've got themselves into the top 8. They're currently 6th in the table, and there is commentary on that match on Sports Extra right now via your BBC Sounds app if you want to listen to Ailey Barber with Michael Brown at the Etihad Stadium. There is news on Napoli-Chelsea. Chris Coles.
And the news is not good for Chelsea. Napoli have turned it around. They now lead 2-1. Former Manchester United striker Rasmus Højlund getting across his man at the front post, firing in off the post. Napoli 2, Chelsea 1. Chelsea dropped down to 12th.
Chelsea down in 12th. Newcastle actually now 10th place in the table, and that's moved Atletico Madrid back into the top 8, even though they are currently level at 1-1 with Buda Glimt. PSG coming forward. Oh, Dembele on the edge of the area, miscontrolled it. There's a collector's item, and Lewis Miley was able to come across and take the ball away. If he'd been able to take that in his stride into the box, he would have been one-on-one with Nick Pope. Newcastle break forward with Willock. Nice run from Elanga, diagonal run. Elanga's cross into the box, Pacho's underneath that to volley it away.
Elanga there in that situation, wide left. It's a good end to the half from Newcastle.
It is, and here it might get better. Ramsey into the box, but it bounced away from him, and Pacho was able to whack it out left-footed front throw.
I think, John, that's the frustration with Anthony Elanga at times, isn't it? Just that end product, hitting the first man from the cross there, had to lift that. Got Voltemade, his physical presence, and here comes another long throw from Lewis Hall, this time on the left-hand side. Dan Burn has gone forward.
Paphos 1, Slavia Prague 1. That's a setback for the Greeks. Slavia Prague will be eliminated, but they've made it 1-1. Lewis Hall then with the long throw. It is flicked on by Burn, but PSG had it away. Nodded back into the box by Elanga. Then Pacho gets up and heads it away. 3 minutes of added time to come at the end of this first half. Well, the early signs were ominous for Newcastle, but it's not got any worse for them, and they are showing more towards the end of this first period. However, in added time, PSG win it back, but Dembele runs away from the ball, bizarrely, and Tonali stepped forward, actually said, thank you very much, and was able to then play it forward again for Newcastle. That was strange.
That was the old striker into the ball and spin, and Coutinho, for once, not on the same wavelength.
Hall to Lewis Miley, and then back it goes towards the halfway line. So 2 minutes of added time before Mark Chapman will round everything up for you at the half-time break. But currently, with the scores as they are, Arsenal going through as the winners, Liverpool in 3rd place, winning 2-0 at Anfield against Karabag. Manchester City, as I say, the big movers of the night into the top 8, with the fact that they're winning 2-0 and results going their way. Tottenham are still in the top 8. They're in 7th place, but Newcastle and Chelsea 10th and 12th outside those automatic positions for the round of 16. Free kick to Newcastle in the centre circle. They couldn't grab an equaliser just before the break, could they? That would be a smash and grab. Tonali long into the box, flicked on, and then it's headed in! Well, Joe Willock in the 6-yard box pounces. The long set piece, the flick on, and Willock nodding it past Safanov to make it 1-1 in added time here in the Parc des Princes. And Newcastle, wow, how have they done that?
Well, they've just found a way of staying in the game, and it's the set-piece Premier League team. And PSG have looked vulnerable from long throws, and it's Dan Burn who does brilliantly. I think Marquinhos doesn't cover himself in glory with the first header. Dan Burn just keeps it alive, heads the ball back into the centre of the 6-yard line, and Willock, he anticipates where the header's going and then nods the ball past Safanov in the PSG goal. It's a really good header. It's a header he should score. and Newcastle from nowhere are level.
Remarkably so, Newcastle back all square with that goal from Joe Willock, and that takes Newcastle currently, we're not sure a draw would be enough, but at the moment, Chris, it would be for a place in the top 8. Newcastle with that goal, there's the half-time whistle, that goal has taken Newcastle into 8th position. Well, that's a real turn of events. It looked at one stage as though PSG were going to bury this unusual team selection that Eddie Howe has come up with, but who knows best? 1-1 at half-time?
Absolutely. Didn't play the team we thought Eddie Howe was going to play. Half a Newcastle team, some may say, but PSG came out of the blocks, didn't they, and really pushed Newcastle back, missed a penalty early on, then got themselves in front. Vitinha with a really tidy finish, but then they lost the flow a little bit. Newcastle sort of found a way back into the game, pushed PSG back just before half-time, and then a set-piece goal. They're all level and all to play for. And also, goodness knows what happened with that potential penalty for a handball off Marquinhos. That just seemed to disappear. Well, maybe Dan Burn. I think Dan Burn is having words with the referee.
Exactly, I mean, it's yeah. As they walk off the field, he is saying how did PSG get a penalty for handball early in the match that Pope saved, and how did Newcastle not? But they didn't. However, Willock to the rescue so far. Paris Saint-Germain won.
Just saying, sorry, John, as going over into the tunnel, Jason Tyndall clearly gesturing to his arm to the referee as well. Newcastle enraged with that decision, quite rightly so.
That came before Willock's equaliser, and at half-time, Paris Saint-Germain won, Newcastle won, which might be enough for Newcastle.
And it is at the moment, as John said, it has them in 8th in the as it stands table, and in fact that equaliser for Newcastle drops Paris Saint-Germain down to 7th. What's helping Newcastle at the moment as they try and stay in the top 8 is that Atletico Madrid are being held at home by Bodo Glimt. So Atletico Madrid just missing out on the top 8 as things stand. Manchester City, as things stand, 5th in the table. They've had a very comfortable first half at the Etihad. Ian Dennis.
Yes, they have. They lead 2-0 against Galatasaray, so they are on course, not just because they're leading, but remember they need results to go their way as well in at least 4 of the other games, and currently 5 are going in their favour elsewhere. Haaland put them ahead after 10 minutes. Doku's through ball, left-footed chip over the advancing goalkeeper. Doku again then the provider with a cut back from the left just before the half hour. Cherki and Mark placed the ball past Chakir, the goalkeeper. Doku, though, has since left the field through injury. They could have made it 3 before the break. Nouri, who's been getting a lot of space down the left-hand side, he was streaking away down that flank. He crossed low. Foden, the replacement for Doku, skied it, but Manchester City on course for a top 8 finish. 2-0 they lead at the break.
And Benfica have turned things round at home to Real Madrid. John Bennett.
Yes, Pavlidis has just scored a penalty. Benfica 2, Real Madrid 1. Benfica deserve it. They have been excellent. So Real Madrid at the moment still in the top 8. They're 5th, but it's getting nervy for them. Benfica still outside the playoff places. Benfica 2, Real Madrid 1.
Thank you very much. Speaking of turning things around, Napoli have done exactly the same thing at home to Chelsea. So this at the moment knocks Chelsea out of the top 8 and gets Napoli into the top 24. Chris Coles.
Indeed, Napoli 2, Chelsea 1. This game being played at frenetic pace. Napoli doing most of the attacking and have a merited lead. Chelsea had struck first. Enzo Fernandez penalty given for handball from a free kick. Great penalty as well, low into the corner. But Napoli responded. Antonio Vergara's fine turn in the box. He finished low into the corner, and then Rasmus Højlund in good goal-scoring form on the end of a low ball into the front post. He finished it off the frame of the goal. But on the stroke of half-time, João Pedro missed a glorious chance to equalise, heading over a terrific cross from the left. But as you say, Mark, with this score, Chelsea are finishing outside the top 8. Napoli 2, Chelsea 1.
There are a lot of things at the moment that are going Spurs' way. Sporting are losing. Barcelona are losing. We'll get details of those 2 games in a little while. Spurs themselves goalless at the moment in Frankfurt. John Akers.
Lots going for them away from this game. Not a lot going for them in this match in particular. They've hit the post. Odebear with a shot from the edge of the D with his left foot, hit the inside of the post, low, brilliant effort from him. So that was a bit unlucky. And then Jabi Simons had a goal ruled out by the VAR for an offside in the build-up. So they've had their share of misfortune, Spurs, in this one, but right towards the end of the half, Frankfurt had a chance of their own. Hugo Larsson hit the crossbar on a breakaway. So half-time, no goals. Eintracht Frankfurt 0, Spurs 0, but they're 6th in the table as it stands.
Real Madrid going behind to Benfica in that game, and it is 2-1 at half-time there, has a positive effect for Manchester City because it puts City into the top 4. Remember, if you finish in the top 2, you get the home leg second all the way to the semi-finals. Finish 3rd or 4th, you get the home leg second all the way to the quarter-finals. So that's a big goal that Benfica has scored when it comes to City, who are 4th. Liverpool comfortably in 3rd and comfortably ahead on the night. Lee Blakeman.
Routine so far for Liverpool, leading Karabag 2-0. McAllister got the first 15 minutes in, just about forcing a Szoboszlai corner over the line. Wirtz made it 2 from the edge of the area 6 minutes later. Tidy finish from him. Ekatike's put one just wide. Robertson's put one just over. Gakpo and Szoboszlai have gone close as well. In fact, the only thing that's gone wrong for Liverpool is Frimpong went off 2 minutes in with what looked like a groin problem. Liverpool on their way to the win that they need to be sure. Liverpool 2, Karabag 0.
Arsenal are going to finish the group stage with a 100% record. John Southall.
They are. They lead Kairat by 3 goals to 1 entertaining half. Arsenal 1 up after 2 minutes. Good Gyökeres finish. That lasted 5 minutes. A Calafiore foul and Jorginho equalised from the penalty spot. The second, Kai Havertz, his first start in almost a year, curled a shot into the bottom left corner. It's been good in this first half, Havertz. Gyökeres could have scored a hat-trick. 1 miss from 3 yards out. He will not want to see again. Martinelli tapped in the third, and surely, as you say, top spot is secured, and they are heading for 8 wins from 8. Arsenal 3, Kairat 1.
So Arsenal will be finishing first, Bayern second as things stand. Liverpool and Manchester City 3rd and 4th. Real Madrid are 5th, Spurs 6th, Paris Saint-Germain and Newcastle complete the top 8. Let's focus on the sides currently making a right mess of it this evening. Starting with Barcelona, Maz Farouki.
They really are. Big 45 minutes ahead for them. They need more than the draw to make the top 8 as it stands, and they trail at home by a 1-0 to Copenhagen. The 2 players of the match so far, the 17-year-old up front for the Danish side, Victor Thorfarson, who swept in a lovely through ball for the goal early on, and then Dominik Kotarski in the Copenhagen goal has pulled off several impressive saves as Barcelona have peppered his area. The best of the Barca chances, though, a shot from the D from Eric Garcia, which had the keeper beaten, and that ricocheted off the crossbar to safety. Half-time, Barcelona 0, Copenhagen 1.
John Bennett trying to be across everything else. And when we're looking at those sides trying to get into the top 8, Sporting, Inter and Atalanta all not really taking advantage of what's going on ahead of them.
Yeah, and Atletico Madrid as well, being frustrated as well against Bodo Glimt. They took the lead, looked as though they were coasting, but at the moment they're being frustrated. They're in 9th. I think the big losers so far, though, Mark, are Marseille in terms of the race for the playoffs. So they've dropped out of the playoffs. They're 2-0 down against Club Bruges, who've moved up to 22nd. By Leverkusen, one of the big winners so far, 2-0 up against Villarreal. They've moved to 17th, securing their playoff place at the moment. Athletic Club 2, Sporting 1, so Athletic Club securing their playoff place, but Sporting dropping out of the race for the top 8. But at the moment, Marseille look as though they'll be the big losers of the night.
Let me give you all the scores then. I was going to maybe try and give you the ones that you hadn't heard, but I can't remember what you've heard and what you haven't. So here are them all. Ajax 0, Olympiacos 0, Arsenal 3, Kairat 1, Athletic Club 2, Sporting 1, Atletico Madrid 1, Bodo Glimt 1, Barcelona 0, Copenhagen 1, Bayer Leverkusen 2, Villarreal 0, Benfica 2, Real Madrid 1, Borussia Dortmund 0, Inter 0, Club Bruges 2, Marseille 0, Eintracht Frankfurt 0, Spurs 0, Liverpool 2, Karabag 0, Manchester City 2, Galatasaray 0, goalless between Monaco and Juventus. Napoli lead Chelsea 2-1, PSV and Bayern are goalless, Paphos 1, Slavia Prague 1, Paris Saint-Germain 1, Newcastle 1, Union Saint-Gilloise 0, Atalanta 0. Michael Brown at the Etihad, it's going perfectly for Manchester City, not only on the pitch, but out of all the teams that started the day on 13 points, they're the only ones that are winning at the moment.
Long way to go, chappers. We're just having a little look at it. Yes, it's looking good, but do you know, they started Galatasaray putting City under pressure, and then Haaland missed that opportunity with his header into the far corner, and you thought, is it going to be one of those days? The manager questioned him, and then Doku, who was wonderful, 2 assists. He's got off with a slight hamstring, and it doesn't look good, to be honest, but a great ball into him. Haaland, great finish. Ryan Cherky in the middle of the pitch, he's showboated actually. He got told off from the manager for losing the ball, and then a minute later, straight away he reacts, puts it in the corner, and it all smiles. So yes, going well, but City are fragile defensively, we know, so as I would say, a long way to go.
To Leon Osman, who's been watching Napoli against Chelsea, and on the balance of play, you'd say that scoreline is fair, wouldn't you, at the break? 2-1 to the Italians?
Yeah, I would. I think Chelsea started well, deservedly got the lead, albeit from a penalty kick, from a handball. But I just thought they were going to kick on from there, and I thought they'd start showing that early dominance in the rest of the game, and they seem to take a backward step. Napoli started to figure out how Chelsea have set up defensively. We talked about James playing centre-half. He's kind of been a centre-half, he's kind of been a right-back. The kind of times Andre Santos has dropped in to play centre-half, and it took Napoli about 25 minutes to figure out where to run, and now they've started to pick holes in that Chelsea defensive setup. They're running the channels really well. Most of the times that Chelsea attack, they're coming up against quite a stubborn low block, as we call it nowadays. But whenever Napoli attack, everything seems to be a race. Everybody seems to be running back to that Chelsea goal, and it's quite exciting for Napoli, but far too many opportunities given away by Chelsea.
Thank you very much, Leon. Second halves on the way. We'll be back in Paris, where it's Paris Saint-Germain 1, Newcastle 1 at the break. It's exactly 9 o'clock on 5 Live. Richard Foster has the news.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Thanks, Mark. Good evening. President Trump is threatening Iran with military action, saying a massive armada is moving with great power and purpose towards the country. He says Tehran's running out of time to negotiate a deal on their nuclear program. Iran says its armed forces are ready to respond to any aggression. Here's our North America editor, Sarah Smith.
Donald Trump can sense an opportunity to try and topple a much weakened leadership in Iran, but that doesn't mean he's ready to do so. It could get much, much messier if he was going to try and topple Iran's rulers, and it could spread out across the region. That is not the kind of thing he wants to get involved in.
2 federal agents involved in the fatal shooting of Alex Pretty in Minneapolis have been placed on leave. He was a US citizen and was shot and killed on Saturday. The Prime Minister's convinced his trip to China will bring benefits to the UK. He's meeting President Xi tomorrow as part of a 3-day visit. Critics have raised concerns about the country's human rights record. Luke de Pulford is from the Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China. He told 5 Live the government shouldn't give in to Beijing's demands.
We can't get off on the wrong foot here, making concessions in order to go to China in the way that the Prime Minister has. I think that's the issue. Beijing is treating us like they do other middle powers. You must make concessions in order to come. And if you want economic preferment, then you're going to have to dance to our tune. And I think that's what's going on here, I'm afraid.
A former singer who starred in the Queen-themed musical We Will Rock You has been found guilty of rape and attempted rape. Ross Davidson, who's from North London, was also known for singing with Spandau Ballet in 2018. He'll be sentenced at a later date. The prime suspect in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann has accepted an offer of a council home in northern Germany. Christian Bruckner had been living in a tent in a forest after being unable to find accommodation since leaving prison last year. And an investigation's underway after a wheel fell off a British Airways plane just after it had taken off from Las Vegas airport. The wheel can be seen falling to the ground in a video on the BBC News website. The Airbus A350 landed safely in London 9 hours later.
Missed a massive moment?
Want to hear that last-minute goal again?
If you're listening on most smart speakers, we've got you covered.
Just say, ask BBC Sounds to rewind 5 minutes.
And relive it all over again.
What a goal! Remind us of that magic phrase again.
Ask BBC Sounds to rewind 5 minutes.
This is 5 Live Sports, the Champions League with Mark Chapman.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
45 minutes to go then in the league stage of the Champions League this season, and as it stands, all English sides bar Chelsea are in that top 8. Dan Burn, on the monitor that I'm seeing, Chris Sutton, is still talking to the referee about the penalty that they didn't get.
Yeah, I find it remarkable because if they give the penalty at one end for an arm out from the body, it was exactly the same scenario where Marquinhos, the captain of PSG, that happened at the other end. If I was a Newcastle player, I'd be asking the same question. What are VAR doing? I think the referee can miss that if that's in a bit of a melee or whatever. But VAR, they should be spotting that and letting him know, and Newcastle should have been awarded a penalty.
But so far, so good for Eddie Howe's side. John Murray.
Yeah, remarkably so. Paris Saint-Germain 1, Newcastle 1. Second half about to begin. No further changes. So PSG with Safonov in goal, Hakimi, Marquinhos, Pacho and Nuno Mendes. Midfield of Vitinha with João Neves and Warren Zaïre-Emery. And then substitute Desiré Doué, Bradley Barcola on the left-hand side and Dembele through the middle, but often dropping deep. And Newcastle, who are about to get the second half underway, the referee's just checking his watch. There's the whistle, and it is Tonali who gets the first touch of the second half, playing the ball back into central defence to Botman. So Pope in goal for Newcastle, saved a penalty from Dembele, other good saves as well. It's three central defenders tonight: Chow, Botman and Byrne, then Miley and Hall the wing backs, Ramsey and Tonali in the middle, Elanga and Willock the goal scorer either side of Voltemada. As PSG break forward, free kick not given, Newcastle bring it away, and John Akers has Tottenham news.
Huge goal for Spurs and Thomas Frank, and it's Kolo Muani with the goal. It's a cross from the left-hand side, nodded back across, and it's a little flick volley 3 yards out. Spurs will take it. Frankfurt 0, Spurs 1.
And that lifts Tottenham up to 4th in the league phase table again. So they're back, Chris. Embattled Tottenham are back to being the 4th best team in Europe again.
Yeah, the pressure's off Thomas Frank, of course, now. But just seeing I think PSG should have been awarded a free kick. Nuno Mendes driving forward, PSG absolutely furious. The referee let that one go, he missed that one. And he seems to be in a bit of trouble. Nuno Mendes is down.
Yeah, well, he's
only
in
position.
Just come back after injury. He's another one, but he's just sorted his boot out, and I think he's going to be okay. All right, it is Nuno Mendes is just taking the ball off the field to take this throw in, which he does now. Paris Saint-Germain, Newcastle level at 1-1 after Joe Willock scoring his first goal of the season, and indeed the first goal that he's ever scored, Willock, in the Champions League. So quite a night for him to do it against the holders here, and for Newcastle as well in the circumstances. That goal coming in the 3rd minute of added time, right at the end of the half. I don't know about you, when we talk about the handballs, really, with the best will in the world, I'm not sure either of them should have been given as penalties.
No, but it's the nature of, if you give one, you have to give the other. I'm in total agreement with you. I think both were accidental, but you can understand why Newcastle were absolutely furious at the non-award.
Well, it'll be a talking point, most certainly. You'll be able to see it for yourself on Match of the Day tonight with Mark Chapman, later on this evening on BBC One or anytime on the iPlayer. Champions League final score is up and running tonight as well. You can listen to our commentary along with the graphics and the video printer and the tables as well, which are crucial. And also the clips will be available tonight to watch from 10 o'clock, the goals and the highlights on the iPlayer and all of the BBC platforms. Right now we do have commentary on Manchester City Galatasaray. That's on Sports Extra. Napoli Chelsea is available on Sports Extra 2 on the BBC Sounds app, as Newcastle passing the ball from the halfway line, looking for the run of Elanga, but goalkeeper Safonov is able to come out and pick it up, and PSG can start again from the edge of their own penalty area. One of the stories of the night is Barcelona struggling, not inside the top 8, but Maz Farouki.
But they have an equaliser at the start of the second half, so it's 1-1 at the Camp Nou between Barcelona and Copenhagen. Lovely run down the right-hand side from Lamine Yamal, and the final touch, I think, coming off Robert Lewandowski. Yeah, it's a right-footed finish, so they're back in this, but they need more than the draw to make the top 8. 1-1.
Yes, they're back in the match, but they're not back in the top 8. Barcelona would be finishing 9th in the table, and Newcastle just clinging on ahead of them in 8th place. So Newcastle still with this draw, it would be enough for a place directly into the round of 16 next month. PSG with Desiree Doué, who came on in the first half for the injured Kvaratskhelia. Dembele. Here's Nuno Mendes, who seems okay after that knock that he took. Nuno Mendes takes on Miley, who does very well. Actually, I thought he was past him there, Chris, but Miley managed to get a foot in, and Alanga is able to receive the ball, but he loses out to Doué. Doué now, his ball into the penalty area, hits Chow, bounces across the box, then he went down inside the penalty area as he carried on his run into the box. Doué, but nothing doing from the referee, and Newcastle have got it back. Still inside their own box. Miley is forced to take it across his own penalty area, but then passes it out to comparative safety on the far side. So from Paris back to Anfield and Lee Blakeman.
3-0 to Liverpool, and what a goal for Mo Salah. 19 yards out, free kick, left foot, top corner, and he marks his 80th Champions League appearance for Liverpool with a brilliant goal. He salutes the cop. Liverpool 3, Qarabag 0.
PSG have lost possession. Willock plays it through. Voltemada's in the box. He's got a lot to do. He turns full 360 degrees. Hall gets a touch. Back to Voltemada. Now Tonali. Tonali into the area. Now the angle is very tight, but the shot from Ramsey is straight at Safanov, who's able to actually pat it down. He didn't take it cleanly, but gathered it at the second attempt.
It was just so careless from Pacho, the PSG centre-half. Gave the ball away, and Voltemada driving inside the box. Newcastle getting bodies forward, and he just can't make that pass. Eventually goes out wide to Ramsey, the angle against him, and Safanov gathers at the second attempt.
So the scores involving the 6 English clubs. Arsenal on the way to making it 8 wins out of 8 and going through as the winners of the league phase and guaranteeing themselves a home tie in the second leg as long as they're in this competition this season. Tottenham winning 1-0 in Germany against Eintracht Frankfurt. Liverpool 3-0 up against Qarabag, seemingly on the way to victory. Manchester City 2-0 winners against Galatasaray. The other results are going their way, but Chelsea losing 2-1 in Italy against Napoli. So currently Arsenal would be finishing top, Liverpool 3rd, Tottenham 4th, Manchester City 5th and Newcastle 8th, but Chelsea with work to do down in 13th place in the table, and currently it would only be Chelsea of the English clubs who would be involved next month in the knockout playoff round, as UEFA call it. 6 minutes gone in the second half here in Paris. This brilliant PSG atmosphere continues to reverberate around the concrete stadium in which we sit. Vitinha playing the ball forward, but it rolls all the way back towards Nick Pope, who's well out of his penalty area. There's a little bit of indecision there. Botman runs it away, passes it forward, and it's been won back by Nuno Mendes. Botman had to dive in, and Newcastle got a very fortunate bounce of the ball there. It could have gone anywhere as Botman slid in on the challenge with Doué on the edge of the box. Newcastle were lucky it bounced back to Pope.
Yeah, Nuno Mendes, brilliant anticipation. Botman plays a straight ball up to Alanga. Nuno Mendes reads it, and then Doué looks like he just hesitates for a second, and Botman, he slides in, and there's a coming together there. He had to get back, Botman, and he did do well, but it looks like he's hurt himself in the process.
Paphos now 2-1 up on Slavia Prague. They've got to win and hope results go their way. Paphos to get into the top 24 and avoid elimination, and Olympiacos have taken the lead away against Ajax, and that was one of those tight matches. Olympiacos started the night in 24th place, the last place in which you would progress through from the league phase. So Olympiacos winning, and that jumps them up to 19th, and Ajax would be going out down in 32nd position. Can't help but keep an eye on Buda Glimt, Chris, after our visit there last week. They're 1-1 with Atletico Madrid, but that's not going to be enough for them. They're down in 30th at the moment. It would be truly miraculous were they able to get themselves through and other results go their way to take the Norwegians through.
We enjoyed that little trip, didn't we? Yeah,
we did. This time last week. Newcastle bringing the ball out from the back. Botman just got a crack on the shin, but he's okay, and it's out of play for a throw on the far side. So what about Eddie Howe, Chris? You know, the surprising team that he chose tonight. Gordon on the bench, Wissa on the bench, Barnes. Are we going to see any of that?
Well, exactly. That's a strength for Newcastle this evening. That bench, isn't it? Flair players off the bench. They're a bit pragmatic the way they've played. They haven't tried to really play through PSG in the main. They've gone direct into Voldemar, and it's worked.
Here is Willock crossing from the right, but that's well headed away by Marquinhos. He is such a good defender, Marquinhos. Captain's armband on. Ramsey played in the Champions League, scored in the Champions League for Aston Villa last season. Jacob Ramsey. Now Elanga. Then back to Chow, who flicks it to Miley. Newcastle in their black and white striped shirts, white shorts, white socks, are just down in front of us in possession, and it's Elanga who is moving the ball infield to Voltamara, who's holding it up against Marquinhos, and then given away by Ramsey. Oh, lovely footwork from Dembele, dancing through the challenges, playing it forward to Hakimi. Hakimi bursting forward at pace into the area against Botman. Still going, Hakimi gets the shot in, but it was blocked by Newcastle. However, still going, Doué, he shoots from the angle. That hits Lewis Hall, and then Botman stretching is able to head it away, and the whistle's gone. And it's a free kick to Newcastle. What about that run from Hakimi?
He put the burners on. Such a powerful runner. And he faces Botman. Botman does ever so well, actually, because he doesn't commit. He just stays off him a yard or two. Then eventually the ball popped back to Doué, who gets a decent strike on the ball. It's Lewis Hall flush in the head. Newcastle have looked a lot more solid after that first 25 minutes where PSG were all over them. They haven't given away too many chances.
5 Live from the BBC, live from Paris. Australian Open tennis continues overnight. Tennis breakfast will be on air at 7 o'clock, getting to the sharp end. The women's singles semi-finals in the morning. Tomorrow night, the final night of the league phase of the Europa League, and there'll be commentary on Celtic Utrecht on Sports Extra tomorrow night on 5 Live. There'll be a 2-hour Euro Leagues special. Back to Anfield, Lee Blakeman.
4-0 to Liverpool, it's all over now. Karabakh lost it on the halfway line. Ekitike through on goal, in front of the Kop, easy finish. Liverpool are through, Liverpool 4, Karabakh 0.
So 4-0 to Liverpool. What about Manchester City? Ian Dennis, what's happening?
Well, they still lead by 2-0. Osman's had a header for Galatasaray at the other end, but results are still going in their favour, so on course for the top 8. And we also had a brief lapse in play due to 3 pitch invaders carrying Iranian flags. Manchester City 2, Galatasaray 0.
And you can hear commentary on that right now on Sports Extra. Just casting our eyes ahead, Chris, which I'm not sure we should necessarily do, as Newcastle take a quick free kick. Oh, no offside flag up yet. Willock takes it on. Willock slips it under Safanov, and there is the offside flag. Newcastle supporters in that corner celebrating, but clearly offside. So the goal was ruled out, and John Bennett has news on some of the other matches this evening.
Yes, Bayern Munich knew they were already through. They're now 1-0 up though against PSV Eindhoven. Jamal Musiala with the goal. That means that PSV Eindhoven 29th, so not looking as though PSV will make the playoffs.
Yes, and I was going to say, Chris, looking forward, confirmation that it was indeed offside. Chelsea currently in 13th place, and we know from the way that the competition is organised, we know one of the 2 teams that they would play if they finish in 13th. And who would it be? It would be either 19th or 20th, which would mean Chelsea in the playoff round next month would play either Olympiacos or Napoli, who they're playing at the moment.
That's amazing. That's a quirk, isn't it?
Isn't it just? But I think we're still got half an hour to go before everything will shake down, and we'll be able to look at those sort of things for definite. As PSG attack, ball is all the way across the penalty area. Nuno Mendes actually miscontrolled it, but keeps it in play. Nuno Mendes then sets off against Miley, still going, beats him. Nuno Mendes has ball across, deflected out, then the drive from Zaire Emery, just inside the box, swung a right leg at it, but sliced it wide of all of the players and the goal.
He actually sat up nicely for Zaire Emery, right-footed, slices the ball wide of that far post. I've got to say, the initial ball from Doué, who's been quite quiet since he's come on, but on that right-hand side, put a brilliant ball in. And the PSG players not really attacking the box well enough. And then Nuno Mendes off the left-hand side, driving inside. Eventually the ball dropping for Zaire Emery. He's got to hit the target, got to work Nick Pope in that situation.
Paphos 2, Slavia Prague 1 still the scoreline, but Slavia Prague down to 10 men. Voltemara playing it through the middle for Elanga. Important challenge from the sliding Hakimi, who got his toe end to it. And PSG have got possession back inside their own half. Back to John Bennett.
You guys will like this scoreline. Atletico Madrid 1, Bodo Glimt 2. So that really harms Atletico Madrid's chances of finishing in the top 8. Bodo Glimt still need a miracle to get into the playoffs.
They need results to go their way. Bodo Glimt are down in... I'm not sure the table has changed yet here. I think that is going to jump them up. Well, they are remarkably close to perhaps finding a way through, which would be a remarkable turn of events. Bayer Leverkusen winning 3-0 against Villarreal as the ball is being brought forward from the edge of the penalty area, and a chance for the left-footed shot from Barcola, who ran a long way with the ball across the box. Newcastle defenders in front of him, back onto his left foot, and in the end he blazed it high over the top of the crossbar.
He does brilliantly, Barcola, but I'm thinking, get your shot off with your right foot. He doesn't. Maybe the ball can't quite sit right for him, shifts it back on his left foot, and high and wide from 14 yards. Again, he's under pressure when the shot goes off. He should be hitting the target.
And Chris, Arctic Circle, can you hear me? Bodo Glimt are up to 25th.
Oh, who scored? Do we know who scored?
It was Herc.
No,
it was Casper Herc who got 2 of the goals against Manchester City.
Well, I was reading today, 8 million Norwich City have bid for him.
It's going
they
up.
may have to double that again.
Yeah, and Bodo need one more result to go their way, and obviously to stay ahead. And Monaco Juventus is the result in question, and that is 0-0. Maz Farouki is casting an eye on the Barcelona match.
And Barcelona have come from behind to lead 2-1 against Copenhagen. Yamin Lamar with the strike, which took a wicked deflection off a Copenhagen defender into the back of their own net. And Barcelona are back into the top 8 now, John. 2-1 their lead.
And significantly, that drops Newcastle out of the top 8. The fact that Barcelona have now turned that around. So it is looking, with the scores as they are, that Newcastle are probably going to have to win this, as we suspected at the start of the evening, and it is 1-1 for the record.
Yeah, and I'm sure Eddie Howe will be getting that information to him. And we've mentioned the quality Newcastle have on the bench, but they're actually doing okay in this second half. They're looking a threat, and here they come again.
They do, and it is with Newcastle on the left-hand side, with the Newcastle goal scorer Willock, who does very well. It's Hakimi who is with him, plays it back. Here's the cross, deep into the penalty area. Elanga gets up, it actually hits Nuno Mendes, bounces away. PSG bring it away, and there is further news now on Napoli-Chelsea. Chris Coles.
An equaliser for Chelsea, a fabulous equaliser from João Pedro from range, just outside the penalty area. Wonderful first touch, and with his left he drives it into the top corner for Napoli 2, Chelsea 2. Still not enough, they need another.
And John Bennett, what are you reading into that?
Well, that is significant for Bodo Glimt. 2-1 up against Atletico Madrid, and now in 24th place because of that goal which Chris was just telling us about. So Bodo Glimt at the moment in the playoff spots. They're up to 23rd now, in fact.
Oh, goodness. Well, I mean, that's outcome of the night, as far as I'm concerned. Back to Anfield, Lee Blakeman.
5-0 to Liverpool. Karabag lost it at the back. McAllister nipped in, couple of yards out. Liverpool 5, Karabag 0.
So Bodo Glimt, I've got them at 24th in my table here, but that is, if they are able, as Marquinhos crosses into the penalty area, Newcastle are able to clear it away with Botman coming across. Oh, Elanga's given it away. Vitinha now. Vitinha, 25 yards out, right foot shot, but Pope gets a good sight of that. Stepping to his right, pats it down.
Elanga's so careless in possession. It wasn't a difficult pass, just on the half turn to feed a ball into Voldemar. Wasteful there, and the effort from Vitinha, long way out, but plenty of movement on that ball, straight at Pope.
Yes, he didn't do what he did at Victory Park Chorley a few years ago. Here is Vitinha, now to Barcola on the edge of the box. Joel very nearly worked it through. Miley was just able to step into position and prevent it from reaching Dembele. Newcastle have lost it again inside their own half. If they keep doing this, Newcastle will be punished sooner or later. Zaire Emery, then Dembele in the box, curling right foot shot, but it's away over the top right corner. Nick Pope was confident, and it was bouncing around in amongst the hoardings there. So PSG 1, Newcastle 1. Back to John Bennett.
Real Madrid have a goal back against Benfica. Benfica 3, Real Madrid 2. That could be significant because Benfica have goal difference separating them from the playoffs. And Athletic Bilbao 2, Sporting 2. And that is the reason why Bodo Glimt are now up to 23rd in the table.
23rd, yes, I've got that here. And if Bodo Glimt are able to get through, having beaten Manchester City and Atletico Madrid away in their last 2 matches, that is some achievement.
Unbelievable, but I mean, it's not like they didn't deserve to beat City. They're a really well organised outfit. Looks like Newcastle. We spoke about Anthony Gordon and Harvey Barnes before the game, and the surprise they weren't in the starting lineup. They're stripped and ready now.
Yep, they'll be coming on next time the ball goes out of play. That's quite effective, isn't it, for Newcastle in these circumstances? At the moment, PSG 8th, Newcastle 9th. So Newcastle would have to play that extra round next month. Arsenal winning 3-1 against Kairat, so top of the table. Eintracht Frankfurt 0, Tottenham 1, so Tottenham in 4th. Liverpool on the way to victory, 5-0 against Karabag, so they would be finishing 3rd. And Manchester City are making it through into the round of 16 tonight, 2-0 up on Galatasaray, and those other results are going their way. Napoli 2, Chelsea 2, so Chelsea currently down in 10th, and right now Chelsea would be playing, Chris, either Marseille or Bodo Glimt. So that's how it would shake up. The draw, by the way, is Friday, 11 o'clock UK time in Neon. We'll have news of that on Friday morning on 5 Live. And actually, just casting ahead, Leeds Arsenal is our 3 o'clock commentary on 5 Live Saturday afternoon with Ian Dennis. Don't miss that. PSG coming forward. Newcastle need to win with the other scores as they are. It's 1-1. PSG just wonder whether they might be building another head of steam. Probably Newcastle need to make these changes. Gordon and Barnes stripped off, ready to come on as PSG, Marquinhos scoops a ball forward for João Neves, little João Neves against Hall, and Tonali helping out his defence. And then, it's given away by Newcastle. That was careless from Willock, but Vitinha just took his eye off the ball near the centre circle. He's back into action though, plays it to the left-hand side, and then Nuno Mendes is ball in! Dembele with his left foot shoots narrowly wide, edge of the area, snap shot from the edge of the 6-yard box.
Yeah, he should score. Nuno Mendes, this is a brilliant spot from the PSG left back. Chow just switches off on that right-hand side of the box, and Dembele just drifts in behind him, the ball fizzed in low, and he should just try and help the ball on target. The pace is all on the ball, and Nick Pope, it would have been very difficult for him to save it. But when a couple of yards wide of Nick Pope's right-hand post, Newcastle get away with one there.
Yeah, and it remains 1-1. And in this match, Newcastle have to win it with the scores as they are. Newcastle to finish in the top 8. Now's the moment that Eddie Howe has chosen to take off his 2 wide men, Willock and Elanga. Willock tonight scoring in the Champions League for the first time just before half-time, and Gordon and Elanga, Gordon and Barnes are on. Barnes, Newcastle's 12-goal top scorer this season. Anthony Gordon, who coming into tonight had scored as many goals in the Champions League this season as Erling Haaland had, although Haaland has scored tonight for Manchester City. So Newcastle down in 9th, need to win.
Got their firepower on, John, haven't they, in this competition? 11 goals between them in the Champions League, and Anthony Gordon saying in his press conference he thinks the Champions League is more suited to his style.
Yes, although I was a little bit like Julien Laurent with the feeling that he has done very well in the Champions League this season, and he scored only 2 penalties in the Premier League. Might have influenced this thinking.
Is that a little bit cynical, is it, John?
There's been another goal in the Barcelona-Copenhagen match. Maz Farouki
And Barcelona have moved further ahead. Rafinha converting from the penalty spot. Lewandowski brought down in the area. VAR had a look as well, confirmed it was a spot kick. So Barcelona leading Copenhagen 3-1, and that consolidates their place in the top 8.
Union Saint-Gilloise have taken the lead against Atalanta, and Union Saint-Gilloise still have a chance of finishing in the top 24. John Bennett, as PSG makes some changes, what news?
Yeah, that is good news, that scoreline for the teams currently in the top 8, because Atalanta were one of the chasing pack trying to get that last 16 place, but Union Saint-Gilloise 1-0 up against Atalanta, and it's Ajax 1, Olympiacos 1 as well. So Olympiacos in 26th place now.
PSG made that change. What happened there, Chris? Who was it who came onto the field?
It was Barcola who's off, and Ramos has gone on. Yeah, he's playing as that central striker, and Dembele has gone out to right-hand side. Doué over to the left.
Yeah, Bradley Gonzalo Ramos, who is the 10-goal top scorer for PSG this season, but still not regular starter. Chris, 11 starts. This is the 19th time he's come off the bench. As there he is, the big man, the number 9, flicking it on, but no one in a PSG shirt ahead of him, so Newcastle have got it back. Remains PSG 1, Newcastle 1, but that is not enough currently for Newcastle to finish in the top 8. Manchester City are doing enough though with Yui and Dennis.
Yes, they are. They're currently 6th. They are leading Galatasaray by 2-0. We have had chances at either end. Osman with a snapshot saved by Donnarumma, and both Cherki and Ait Nouri have gone close for Manchester City in this second half, but City's still 2 up.
Yeah, and commentary on that right now on Sports Extra. Commentary on Napoli 2, Chelsea 2 on Sports Extra 2 with Conor McNamara and Leon Osman. You'll see all of the highlights, the goals from 10 o'clock on the BBC platforms, as Newcastle very nearly, with Ramsey giving it away. Dan Burn had to come across, and PSG have it again on the halfway line. So both Newcastle and Chelsea finishing 9th and 10th, so they'll both be involved in the playoff round. But we've still got 20 minutes of this frenetic night of Champions League football on the final night of the league phase to play yet. Still, a great deal can change. PSG with the ball with Dembele. Across it comes to Vitinha. Quickly closed down, so he's able to turn and pass the ball to Desiree Doué, who curls it in, and it is headed away. Gonzalo Ramos was in there, he's a threat now. Dan Burn was able to come across, and in the end the final touch was off a PSG head and behind for a goal kick. 1-1.
Yeah, I think Dan Burn does ever so well. He tracks Ramos in all the way, and it's a right-footed cross from Doué. Not a good crossing position, but with Burn just following Ramos in, Ramos cannot get a clean header on the ball.
Buda Glimt have gone up another place to 22nd. However, if Atletico Madrid were able to score against them, clearly that would drop them back below the line into the elimination places, as they call them. Newcastle, Miley passing it forward, but Barnes can't reach that, and it's through for a goal kick. Since they've come on, we've not really seen Gordon or Barnes in an attacking sense properly, have we?
No, and Gordon on his favoured left-hand side. Barnes, I think if you asked him, he'd prefer to play off the left, but he's off the right. But Newcastle aggressive in the way they're pressing, and PSG, they'll carry on playing out from the back themselves to play through that Newcastle press. So PSG could be in a bit of trouble then if there's another goal from somewhere beneath them.
They could, as Newcastle have it, or indeed here. Gordon with a shot, and it's saved down by Safonov. It dipped that, and he had to get down and push it away, but he did. So there we are, impact now from Anthony Gordon in the Champions League. Still 1-1. Newcastle, by the way, with the table as it is, Newcastle would be playing either Marseille or Benfica. So Jose Mourinho's Benfica, who started the night in 29th place, so had to win against Real Madrid, his former club, and hope results went their way, and at the moment they are. So it could be Jose Mourinho with Benfica against Newcastle, but we'll see. Here's Vitinha, then back to Marquinhos. PSG attacking towards that that vibrant, the most vibrant end of the Parc des Princes to our left, where still dozens and dozens of flags are being waved as Nuno Mendes crosses into the box, cleared away for Newcastle. Voltemada, Tonali lifts one forward, that's for Gordon to chase. Gordon against Pacho, Gordon's going to get there first, as Hakimi was there as well. Gordon does well, plays it infield to Barnes. Black and white shirts pouring forward, now Ramsey with a chance, but a diving block from Marquinhos. 12 yards out, deflected away and behind. Excellent from Newcastle.
Yeah, it's absolutely sensational the way they work the ball forward. One long ball, Gordon puts the burners on that left hand side, but he's so intelligent, quick turn, slides the ball on the inside to Barnes, who then releases Ramsey, who looked like he was going to get a shot off inside the PSG box, but what a block from Marquinhos. Throws his body on the line, crucial block, but Newcastle have been a threat from set pieces and PSG have a corner to defend.
15 minutes to go. PSG 1, Newcastle 1. Newcastle have to win this. Miley with the corner. Deep one to the back post. Safanov got his hands to it. Tonali shoots but slices it up and high over the crossbar, actually. Over the top of the various officials behind the goals and the stewards. And the ball bouncing around on the PSG logo, which is writ large on that blue carpet behind the goal kick.
Yeah, that's a good chance, that is, for Tonali. Safanov, who hasn't really been convincing when the ball's in on him, just flaps a little bit, palms the ball away, and there's only like 8-9 yards out, a bit of an angle against him, but you'd expect the Italian there to have better technique and get his hip over the ball and the shot on target.
Yeah, Donnarumma gone now, part of the Manchester City set up. Here's Voltemada, forward of the centre circle, opening up for him, shoots but straight into the back of Pacho, and the ball bounces away at a right angle into the full back position, and then Chow gets it back. Newcastle are getting some joy, you know, when they come forward. PSG would be going through in 8th, Newcastle in 9th, but Newcastle asking questions. Here's Tonali again on the right hand side, the cross, oh, it's over Safanov, he came for it, didn't get anywhere near it, threw an arm up, and if there'd been anyone there behind him, Hall, then Byrne, back to Hall, Hall's ball into the PSG box, only half cleared away by Pacho, but he's cleared it to Doué, who's able to volley it away downfield. Let's hear what's happening with Tottenham, 1-0 up in Germany against Eintracht Frankfurt, last we heard. John Akers.
2-0 Spurs, they're going to finish 4th. Dominic Solanke on as a substitute, sent through, one-on-one with a goalkeeper, right foot, low, brilliant finish. Eintracht Frankfurt 0, Spurs 2.
Tottenham strengthening their position in 4th place in the table. Liverpool 3rd, Tottenham 4th currently, Manchester City 6th, but Newcastle and Chelsea missing out on the top 8 and a place directly in the round of 16.
Yeah, just imagine if Thomas Frank wins the Champions League this season.
Just imagine. That would be some double, wouldn't it? Europa League one season under Ange Postecoglou, Champions League the next season under Thomas Frank. Desiree Doué for PSG, with the outside of his boot looking to play it into the box, but that was blocked by Miley. Now here's Zaire Emery playing it square to Vitinha, now back square again to João Neves, and then Desiree Doué, number 14 on his back, crosses into the penalty area. Dembele volleys it back square to João Neves, who was going to hit a shot, plays it square. Vitinha, 2 Newcastle players in front of him, lovely pass to Dembele in the box, back onto his left foot, still going, prods it to the edge of the penalty area. It's set up for Vitinha's shot, that's blocked inside the box by black and white shirts. Vitinha again then passes it back to Zaire Emery, who works it to his left to Doué, who's going to curl it into the penalty area, comes off the head of Chow. Newcastle suddenly right on the back foot here. PSG with the ball around the edge of the Newcastle box. Vitinha, right foot shot, flashes over the top of Nick Pope's crossbar and behind for a goal kick, and it remains 1-1 here in Paris. Newcastle going to bring Wissa on as a substitute for Voltemada, and while they do that, John Bennett.
Significant equaliser for PSV Eindhoven. PSV 1, Bayern 1, so that moves them to 22nd place. It knocks Benfica out of the top 24. Marseille in 24th place. Bodo Glimt still hanging on in there in 23rd.
Bodo Glimt now, 10 minutes away from a place in the knockout round, which would be remarkable. Certainly one of these stories of the night. Voltemada off, Chris Sutton, Wissa on.
Yeah, and Wissa will offer that running in behind, that movement. I think Voltemada's had a decent game this evening, I do. You know, Eddie Howe has wanted to use him as that focal point, and I think he's held the ball up well, been good in possession.
It's 10 appearances now for Newcastle without scoring for Nick Voltemada, but he does offer a lot, doesn't he?
Absolutely. That's what he brings to the team, that hold-up play, that link-up play. That's a lazy pass from Lewis Miley, though.
Yeah, gives it away inside the Newcastle half. Again, if you just switched on, as a red flare is lit in the top tier of the Ultras end to our left, smoke pouring out of that and around the rafters of the Parc des Princes. With this scoreline, Newcastle, with the scores as they are, Newcastle have to win here tonight to make the top 8. Still going through to the playoff round, but here they come. Hall to Tonali. Tonali stretching forward with the ball. He's got Gordon to his left, plays it into the area, but it's controlled and cleared away by Vitinha on the edge of the box. And that was a wasted opportunity for Newcastle, and actually Nuno Mendes has taken it away from Miley. Still going the left back, still going, and then passes it out to Dembele. Dembele approaching the penalty area, right-footed ball into the box, but straight into the path of Botman, who's able to then play it up towards Tonali near the halfway line. Back to John Bennett again.
This is really significant for the top 8. Dortmund 0, Inter 1. So Inter have just scored. They move to 8th. Paris Saint-Germain now 9th. They're out of the top 8. Newcastle 10th.
So neither Paris Saint-Germain nor Newcastle would be finishing in the top 8 with this scoreline. They both need to win it, and they'll know that. Luis Enrique and Eddie Howe down there, I'm sure they'll be told, as Newcastle. Gordon receives it on the edge of the box, still going. Anthony Gordon tumbles down in the box as he went between Pacho and Marquinhos. He's clutching his ankle. The referee was not in the slightest bit interested in giving a penalty to Anthony Gordon there.
I think it's Marquinhos who gets back at him, but I think Gordon goes down lightly there. There is a slight bit of contact, not enough to throw himself to the floor like that. Anthony Gordon, poor from him.
So PSG, Newcastle and Chelsea all finishing outside the top 8, which would mean somebody will be playing Paris Saint-Germain in the knockout round next month. Paris Saint-Germain currently 9th, so they would be playing either 23rd or 24th, which would be PSV or Buda Glimt. It could be Buda Glimt coming here. That would be hilarious. Can you imagine? Well, anyway, let's put that on hold. PSG coming forward as the ball is worked back to the edge of the area. Vitinha's ball across the Newcastle box, but Miley's there with his left foot to clear it away. Club Brugge now winning 3-0 against Marseille. So Club Brugge would be into the top 24 as Doué crosses into the Newcastle box, headed away. Ajax 1, Olympiacos 2, and just to restate, and that's Olympiacos safely into the top 24 with that scoreline. Just to restate, as John was saying, Benfica now would not be qualifying. They would be eliminated tonight. Jose Mourinho's Benfica with the scores as they are. We've got 6 minutes of the 90 to play, Chris. I certainly wouldn't rule out a winner.
No, absolutely not. I mean, both teams need a winner, of course. I think Newcastle in this second half have been excellent, John. I really do. I think they've narrowed up and they've said you can cross balls into the box, we'll deal with them. PSG haven't caused Nick Pope in this second half too many problems, and Newcastle have looked to threat themselves on the break.
Search Football Daily in the morning. The BBC Sounds app will have all of the reaction to whatever happens here in the course of the next 10 minutes or so. It could yet still change dramatically. I mean, Arsenal will be finishing top. Liverpool comfortable, winning 5-0. Tottenham as well, 2-0 up in Germany. Chelsea still in the top 8 as Hakimi crosses across the box. A stretch from Gonzalo Ramos. Byrne got a foot to it, and Pope is able to catch the ball comfortably for Newcastle. Napoli-Chelsea, Chris Coles.
Chelsea have a third and they are back into the top 8. João Pedro has his second of the evening, well found on the right, still had plenty to do, took it all the way into the box, fine finish into the corner. Napoli 2, Chelsea 3, Chelsea back in the top 8.
And that is one of the results that Manchester City did not need. So Manchester City now, having spent most of the evening back in the top 8, Manchester City, even though they're winning 2-0 against Galatasaray, Manchester City, like PSG currently, would have to play the 2 extra matches in the knockout round next month. So that win, not enough currently for Manchester City. Here's Doué for PSG. Newcastle got everyone back behind the ball. Eddie Howe's made his changes, his attacking changes, with Gordon, Wissa and Barnes coming on, but it's a defensive operation at the moment, Chris, for Newcastle. As Zaire Emery will play it infield to João Neves, then to Vitinha again, 30 yards out. Vitinha just drags it back. He's got a lovely touch on the ball, Vitinha, slender man. Then to João Neves, and then Désiré Doué playing the ball from foot to foot, so comfortable as well in possession. Then Vitinha again as well.
Just not the speed of passing which they require, PSG. Just playing around Newcastle, looking for that little opening.
Doué thought about a shot from 25 yards, plays it square. Marquinhos is there. Here's Dembele, one of the danger men. Dembele across the box, a stretch in the area from Doué. Couldn't get any contact on that. Newcastle will look to break away with Anthony Gordon and then Hall. Here's one for Gordon to chase. Gordon's away from Marquinhos on the left wing, brings it into the box now, still against Marquinhos. Gordon with a flick, and then it's worked across, saved by Safanov. Barnes with the effort from the angle. It was a tight angle, but Safanov made the save.
Yeah, it's an excellent save from Safanov. Excellent from Anthony Gordon on that left-hand side. The overlap from Barnes. Perfect pass from Gordon. Decent strike. Good save from Safanov.
Going to Manchester City in a moment, but now PSG at the other end. Dembele with a shot from the angle. That's deflected behind by Botman for a corner to PSG. So yes, Manchester City, Ian Dennis winning, but now it's not enough.
Well, it is at the moment because they're still in the top 8. However, should there be a goal for Real Madrid, should they equalise, coupled with a goal for either team there, then they would drop out of the top 8. So there is still now a little bit more jeopardy for what has been up until now a comfortable night for Manchester City, who lead Galatasaray by 2-0.
Thank you, Ian. Yes, Manchester City 7th, Real Madrid in 8th. So PSG, Newcastle missing out on the top 8. Changes made by PSG. So coming onto the field, Seni Mayulu, the 19-year-old who scored in the Champions League final, as Vitinha has it outside the box, goes for the curler, but took a deflection into the hands of Nick Pope. And Maz Farouki has further news on Barcelona.
Yeah, Marcus Rashford on late on in this match, and he scored a fourth for Barcelona direct from a free kick from the left, just outside the area, beat the keeper. Barcelona 4, Copenhagen 1. Barcelona definitely finishing in the top 8.
Anthony Gordon plays it across. Oh, Barnes misses it at the back post, off balance, slashed the foot at it, couldn't find the back of the net. And it's behind, and it remains 1-1. What a chance to win it for Newcastle and Barnes.
Absolutely, and there's Anthony Gordon's running. Once again, long ball in behind Marquinhos, and he drives on the inside, right-footed shot, it takes a deflection, goes all the way through to the back post. Harvey Barnes is, 4 yards out? And he slices the ball horribly into the side netting. He just loses his balance at the point when he's shooting. That is an incredible chance. Not taken by Harvey Barnes.
It remains PSG 1, Newcastle 1, and we have now 2.5 minutes of the 90 to play. Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham, Chelsea and Manchester City all going through into the round of 16. Back to Arsenal, John Southall.
Well, we thought we had a fourth goal for Gabriel Jesus, but the referee has looked at it and it looks like that one has been chalked off, so it remains Arsenal 3, Cairo 1.
PSV 1, Bayern Munich 2 now, and Paphos 4-1 up on Slavia Prague. And PSG lose possession on the edge of the Newcastle box. Harvey Barnes, what a chance that was. Gives it to Wissa, who is bundled over and wins. Does he win a free kick? And in fact, there's a Newcastle man down just outside their own penalty area. PSG want to take this throw. PSG, no. I mean, Nuno Mendes is over here on the side of the pitch. He'll probably have been informed that PSG do need to win this. They need to go all out to avoid those 2 matches next month. They need to try and win it. In actual fact, probably Newcastle have come closer to winning it over the course of the last 10-15 minutes or so.
I think Newcastle in the second half have been the far more effective team. I mean, Julian Laurent earlier totally wrote Newcastle off, said they can't win the Champions League, but I think they've given as good as they've got in this, certainly in the second half.
Back to Anfield, Lee Blakeman.
6-0 to Liverpool, icing on the cake from Federico Chiesa. Liverpool 6, Qarabag 0.
Liverpool going through in style in third place. Newcastle with a free kick. Tonali to take this, but PSG holding an incredibly high line. Ball floated in, headed across the edge of the box. Burns there, but Pacho volleys it back to the halfway line. Back to Maz Farouki.
And Copenhagen have pulled one back through their captain, Gabriel Pereira. A really, really messy goal. In fact, they're just having a goal check with the VAR officials, having a look to see if this one will stand. But at the moment, it's Barcelona 4, Copenhagen 2.
So Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham, Chelsea and Manchester City would all be going directly through into the round of 16 of the English clubs. Only Newcastle here missing out. 4 minutes of added time. PSG coming forward. If Newcastle could grab a goal though, which really they had such a good chance to do. However, PSG at the other end, and Mayulu looking to hit the ball across the box. That's deflected away and behind for a throw to PSG. So in added time, still so much could change, even though there are only minutes left of these matches. Both PSG and Newcastle would be in the playoff round. Here's Vitinha. Vitinha turns. Plays the ball to the left-hand side here to Ibrahim Mbaye, who has also come on as a substitute with João Neves going off. Nuno Mendes in the full-back position to the edge of the penalty area where Mayulu is there. Now Vitinha to the right-hand side, Hakimi, and then the shot from the angle from Dembele, but it blazes wide of the near post and behind. 1-1 in added time. Chris Sutton.
Yeah, it's a difficult shooting position. Newcastle have defended their box brilliantly in this second half. Ball goes out wide to Dembele. Angle against him, real optimism, went for power. High and wide, and a bit of a resigned look on Luis Enrique's face. The PSG manager, I suppose if you're a PSG fan, you're thinking, well, we did it the hard way last year. Maybe the playoff got them into a bit of a rhythm.
Yep, he did say that yesterday. There's Gonzalo Ramos, lovely touch from him. Into the path of Dembele, up against Dan Burn. Dembele's shot, that's deflected right across the penalty area for Newcastle, and Miley to volley it away. Headed forward for PSG by Nuno Mendes. With the scores as they are, Newcastle currently facing a tie against either Monaco or Qarabag. Constantly changing. Vitinha, now to Hakimi. PSG with the ball, with their right back Hakimi, who crosses into Lewis Hall and it bounces out of play for a throw. In the 3rd minute of added time. It's been quite a match actually. PSG can't keep the ball in, it's a throw into Newcastle.
Well, they flew out, didn't they, PSG, and put Newcastle under all sorts of pressure. The Nick Pope penalty save, and they were the side in the ascendancy. But you've got to admire the way Newcastle have played with that determination from Eddie Howe's team to stay in the game, got themselves level. And then second half, I think they've been excellent. Good balance of the play.
Yep, 1-1. Vitinha with the early goal. Joe Willock with the equaliser just before half-time. And in the second half, Newcastle have given just about as good as they've got. That Copenhagen goal, that last Copenhagen goal was ruled out. It's Barcelona 4, Copenhagen 1. So, free kick to Newcastle. We are now in the final minute of added time. This would be snatching it right at the end. Scored right at the end of the first 45 minutes from a Tonali free kick, which was deflected on and then headed across by Byrne. Tonali takes this long free kick to the end of the PSG box. Byrne flicks it on, the whistle's gone, even though Botman shoots goalwards. Foul given against Dan Byrne, I presume.
I think that's harsh. I just think he uses his brute strength to get up and win the ball. And Botman would have kept that alive, but here it is, this is it.
This could be the last chance. Inter are winning 2-0 away in Germany against Borussia Dortmund, but that's still not enough for last year's beaten finalists. They are 9th. Real Madrid just sneaking into the top 8 in 8th position at the moment. But PSG, Newcastle, Juventus, Atletico Madrid, all missing out on the top 8. And there we are, the final whistle here in Paris. It has finished 1-1, and unless something changes, both PSG and Newcastle miss out on the top 8 because neither of them could win this match here tonight, Chris Sutton.
Yeah, and I get it, Newcastle, will miss out. It looks like they'll miss out on the top 8, but I think they can take a hell of a lot from their performance tonight. Surprised by the starting lineup from Eddie Howe's team. I thought they got stronger the longer the game went on, and thoroughly deserved the draw.
Yep, and right now Newcastle looking at a tie against either Monaco or Karabag in that knockout playoff round next month. So, what a night, what an eventful evening, a very good match here as well. Just like the last time Newcastle were here in the Champions League, it finishes PSG 1, Newcastle 1.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Chris. I bet the pair of them very much looking forward to that first cold pression of the evening, wherever they're heading after moving out of the Parc des Princes. What a night in the Champions League. All changing, and it's changed late on as well in terms of Real Madrid. John Bennett.
Yes, it's Athletic Club 2, Sporting 3. So that goal for Sporting moves them to 7th. Real Madrid, as it stands, out of the top 8. They are 9th. Still yet to get to 90 minutes, though, in their game. Benfica 3, Real Madrid 2.
OK, so as we heard from John and Chris, Newcastle have not finished in the top 8. They are heading for the knockout round, the same for Paris Saint-Germain. There were 5 English teams who started the night in the top 8. 5 have finished in the top 8, but Manchester City have swapped places with Newcastle. No doubt, though, about the team right at the top of the table. Another win for Arsenal. Late goal in the game as well, John Southall.
Yep, Arsenal have won it by 3 goals to 2 against Kairat. The game was won by half-time, really, with Gyökeres with the early goal. Jorginho equalised from the spot, Havertz with the second, Martinelli with the third. Second half was a bit of a non-event. Gabriel Jesus disallowed goal, but then the champagne moment, Ricondinho, the Brazilian, in the 94th minute headed in the second for Kairat, much to the delight of the hordes from Kazakhstan. Terrific achievement from Arsenal. They finished top of the table, 8 wins from 8. Arsenal 3, Kairat 2.
Yeah, 24 points, the maximum possible for Arsenal. Bayern Munich finishing in second. As I look at the table right now, Ian Dennis, Manchester City are in the top 8, only just.
Only just. They have beaten Galatasaray by 2-0, but should Real Madrid get an equaliser in Lisbon, and it's currently Benfica 3, Real Madrid 2, that would force Manchester City out of automatic qualification for the last 16. But they've done what they needed to do, Ali, and it was relatively comfortable. The jeopardy's really come in the last 10 minutes with results elsewhere, but both goals in the first half. Haaland latching onto a through ball from Doku, chipped the ball over the goalkeeper. That was after 10 minutes, and then Doku cut the ball back to the left for Cherki, who placed the ball past. Both sides had chances in the second half, but now just waiting on that result from the Estadio de Luz. But Benfica 3, Real Madrid 2. If it stays like that, City will hang on to a place in the top 8.
Yeah, spot on, Ian. Top 8 as it stands at the moment. Full-time whistles haven't blown in all the games in this final round of the Champions League phase this evening on 5 Live and BBC Sounds. But it's Arsenal and Bayern Munich 1 and 2, Liverpool 3rd, Tottenham Hotspur 4th, Barcelona 5th, Chelsea in 6th, Sporting in 7th, and Manchester City in 8th. I would suggest Chelsea could be one of the stories of the night. They started the night in the top 8, Chris Coles. Then they were out, then they were in, then they were out, then they were back in. They're in 6th at the moment.
It's because of all of that, Ali, that this feels like a big result, not just for Chelsea, but Liam Rossigna as well. By far and away their best performance under him so far. And yes, Napoli have their injury problems, but still, Chelsea had to battle for this. They spent large parts of the game behind and out of the top 8 until João Pedro's excellent double to win the game and eliminate Napoli. Frantic first half, Chelsea in front through Enzo's penalty. Vergara and Højlund had Napoli 2-1 up at the break, 2 good finishes. Cole Palmer introduced at the break just to plug a few gaps, which he did, and a calmer second half followed until minute 61. João Pedro's fine strike from range for 2-2, and the winner coming in the final 10 minutes from the Brazilian again, driving low into the corner with Napoli throwing everything forward. They needed to find a winner, they couldn't, and Chelsea win the game into the top 8, and Napoli, the Italian champions, are out. Napoli 2, Chelsea 3.
OK, more from Chris and Leon Osman on Chelsea's big win in Naples tonight. Manchester City fans waiting anxiously on news from Portugal. Benfica against Real Madrid. More drama, John Bennett.
Yeah, potentially some good news for Manchester City. 2 minutes to go. Benfica 3, Real Madrid 2, but Real Madrid down to 10 men. Raul Asensio sent off a second booking. Meanwhile, Bodo Glimt, their game has finished. They have beaten Atletico Madrid, so they are into the playoffs. They've finished 23rd.
Yeah, fantastic result for Five Live favourites Bodo Glimt. John Murray and Chris Sutton were there a couple of weeks ago, and that is some finish to the campaign for them. They are into the playoff round, as John says. They have finished in 23rd spot. Anything there between 9th and 24th takes you into those two-legged ties in the knockout round to try and play for a place in the last 16. Great night for Tottenham Hotspur and Thomas Frank. John Akers.
Brilliant night, Ali, for Frank and Spurs, struggling in the Premier League and strolling into the Champions League last 8. Kolo Muani got them underway just after half-time with a neat little finish, a little flicked volley from across from the right-hand side. His third goal in the Champions League this season, all of his goals coming in the Champions League. And then Solanke coming on as a substitute with a really smart finish, and says he's feeling fitter in the post-match interview. Archie Gray has just said it's like we've been a different team in the Champions League. When he was interviewed afterwards, they were excellent tonight. Eintracht Frankfurt just had the one chance. Hugo Larsson hit the crossbar, and Spurs, they could have had more. They hit the post in the first half and had a goal ruled out for VAR. They're likely to finish above Barcelona, Manchester City and Real Madrid. Finished Eintracht Frankfurt 0, Spurs 2.
Liverpool started the night 4th in the table, knowing a win would do. Some win in the end against Qarabağ at Anfield. Lee Blakeman.
Yeah, Liverpool through automatically in third. An easy 6-0 win here against Qarabağ. 2 up at half-time thanks to McAllister and Wirtz. McAllister got another in the second half. Ekitike got one, Chiesa got one, and Salah, on his 80th Champions League appearance for the football club, scored an absolutely brilliant free kick in front of the Kop. They could have had more. So many other great chances for Liverpool. 38 shots on goal they had in total, but they're through comfortably. 6 wins and 2 defeats from their 8 Champions League games. Qarabağ hold on to a playoff place. It's ended Liverpool 6, Qarabağ 0.
Yeah, should say for Liverpool and Tottenham Hotspur as well, finishing 3rd and 4th. They will play the home leg second in both the last 16 and the quarterfinals if they make it to the quarterfinals. For Arsenal and Bayern finishing in the top 2, they will play the home leg second in all their knockout ties, however far they go in the competition. Now, Barcelona, one of those teams that took advantage of the draw in our commentary game in Paris tonight. Paris Saint-Germain 1, Newcastle 1, meant both teams dropped out of the top 8. Barcelona, though, straight through to the last 16. Maz Farouki.
Yeah, we're just watching Hansi Flick's peering at the screen of a live table of one of his assistant's phones. So he's been closely following this live table and all the movement, just as we have tonight, Ali. And for 48 minutes of this match, Barca's opponents, Copenhagen, were one of these stories of the night, leading Barcelona by a 1-0 very early on. But Barcelona coming back in the second half, scoring 4 unanswered goals through Robert Lewandowski, then a deflected Yamin Lamal effort, a Rafinha penalty, then a Marcus Rashford free kick when he came on late on. It might be funny to say given the scoreline, but it was not convincing at all from the La Liga leaders at times. But they do finish in the top 8. Copenhagen miss out on the playoffs, and they will reflect on what could have been really big moments for them, chances for them, good chances as well to move ahead again when the score was 1-1. But it has finished at Camp Nou, Barcelona 4, Copenhagen 1.
Thank you, Maz. This is Alistair Bruce Ball. It's 10 o'clock, 5 Live and BBC Sounds. Dramatic night in the Champions League, the last round of league games. 5 English teams sitting in the top 8 at the moment. Manchester City in 8th spot. They're wondering what's going on in the game between Benfica and Real Madrid. Even more drama, John Bennett.
Oh, the goalkeeper, the Benfica goalkeeper has just scored. It's Benfica 4, Real Madrid 2. And that is significant for Manchester City. It means that Manchester City will be in the top 8, but it also means that on goal difference, Jose Mourinho's Benfica are now into the top 24. They've knocked Marseille out of the playoffs, and Benfica are into the playoffs. And it's the Benfica goalkeeper, Ali, who has scored that crucial goal. Benfica 4, Real Madrid 2. That is astonishing.
What a header, what scenes. The pictures I'm looking at the moment, the Benfica keeper just absolutely smothered in celebrating teammates, and Jose Mourinho going absolutely nuts on the sideline. So Benfica into the knockout round. Any team that finishes between 9th and 24th into the knockout round, table as it stands, has Benfica in that 24th spot. By the way, Mark Chapman hasn't disappeared completely. Your highlights of all the Champions League action tonight: BBC One at 10:40. Mark is hosting that alongside Neda Manua and Julien Laurent. So let's just remind you of the top 8. Benfica comfortably ahead of Real Madrid now, so Real Madrid are going to drop into the knockout round. They will not finish in the top 8. Arsenal, Bayern Munich, Liverpool, Spurs, Barcelona, Chelsea, Sporting and Manchester City with their home win over Galatasaray, they take those automatic spots in the last 16. Let's give you a full rundown of what happened results-wise in the Champions League this evening. So Arsenal beat Kairat by 3-2 to make it 8 wins out of 8 and finish top of the table. Spurs with their 2-0 win away to Frankfurt finish in 4th. Liverpool in 3rd with their big 6-0 win over Karabag. Manchester City in 8th after the 2-0 win over Galatasaray, and a fabulous result for Liam, Rosenior and Chelsea. A 3-2 win away to Napoli sees Chelsea finish in 6th and straight through to the last 16. Newcastle started the night in the top 8 in 7th, drew 1-1 away to Paris Saint-Germain. Both of those teams dropping out of the top 8, and they go into the knockout rounds. In terms of the other results, Ajax 1, Olympiacos 2. Sporting with a 3-2 win away to Athletic Bilbao. That saw them finish in 7th, and they go straight through to the last 16. Bodo Glimt, incredible Champions League campaign for them. Massive win away to Atletico Madrid tonight, and they finish 23rd in the table, so they make it to that playoff round. Maz Faruqi told us all about Barcelona 4, Copenhagen 2. So Barcelona finished 5th, go straight through to the last 16. Bayer Leverkusen beat Villarreal by 3-0. It's finished, I think now, Benfica 4, Real Madrid 2. John Bennett's had his eye on that one for us. Yes, that is now a full-time score. Inter won 2-0 away to Dortmund. It got them into the top 8 for a little while. They've ended up finishing 10th, so they will go into the knockout round. Club Brugge beat Marseille by 3-0. It finished Monaco 0, Juventus 0. I think we barely mentioned that game all evening. Bayern Munich had a 2-1 win away to PSV Eindhoven. Paphos beat Slavia Prague by 4-1, and Union Saint-Gilloise beat Atalanta by 1-0. Atalanta, one of those teams starting on 13 points tonight. They were also just behind Manchester City actually on goal difference in the end, but they couldn't get the result, so they're another team that goes into the knockout round. The draw for those knockout games will be made on Friday. The first legs will be played on the 17th and 18th of February. So let's tell you some of the stories that have happened in the Champions League tonight, and why don't we start in Naples. Famous win for Chelsea against Antonio Conte's Napoli. They beat them by 3-2. Chris Coles was watching this game, as was Leon Osman. Chris, I was scribbling down here as the night went along. In the 18th minute, Chelsea dropped out of the top 8. Atletico took the lead against Bodo Glimt. A minute later, Enzo's penalty had them back in the top 8. 32nd minute, Napoli equalised. Chelsea dropped to 9th. Back up to 8th as Bodo equalised against Atletico. And before half-time, Chelsea had dropped down to 12th as they went 2-1 down. But a couple of stunning goals from João Pedro in the second half got them back into that top 8. And as you said a little earlier on, that's a huge shot in the arm for Liam Rosenior.
Yeah, it's a huge result for him and for Chelsea. Yes, we know Napoli do have their problems and they have their injury issues, but still, I think the most impressive part of it, Ali, was at 2-1 Napoli. The second half was meandering along and it didn't really feel like there was much in the offing for Chelsea. And at that stage, with results or latest scores as they were, Chelsea knew they needed 2 goals to make it into the top 8. And that's tricky in Naples. And 2 wonderful João Pedro goals, as you mentioned. And actually, it was that equaliser that I think sparked Chelsea to find the winner. It was a fabulous goal. He took it really well with his right foot, his first touch to get away from 2 defenders, takes it across the area, left foot drive into the net, and then the winner comes as Napoli were pushing forward. They needed a goal to make sure they qualified for the playoffs. They didn't get it. It allowed space, and Chelsea found the winner. But given that Liam Rosenior's reign so far, yes, they've won 5 out of 6, but some of the performances have not been there. The win over Brentford was not one of their best performances. They got the job done. They were much better against Palace last week, but this one, the maturity the young side showed to go to Naples, to get the win to qualify for the top 8, I think this will do wonders for Chelsea and for Liam Rosenior.
Yeah, Leon Osman was commentating on the game this evening. Leon, it saves them a couple of games in February, obviously. It's a massive boost in confidence. I mean, did you see it as a bit of a sort of coming-of-age performance? I'm thinking particularly for João Pedro, who's not particularly been prolific as yet this season for Chelsea. Those are a couple of really big goals tonight.
Oh, absolutely. And he showed... When you show that kind of quality, it just makes everybody wonder why you're not doing that week in, week out. They were absolutely tremendous goals. Yes, I do think, or I said to Chappers before the game, talking about, I felt Chelsea would go there and win. I felt they needed a kind of big statement sort of result. Yes, Napoli are struggling with numbers and injuries that they've had, but you just felt that Chelsea wanted to go there and not just sort of limp through what they were. I couldn't keep up with the permutations myself. I just knew Chelsea sort of had to win. There was a moment where they were drawing and were going through, but you just felt Chelsea knew they had to sort of get out of there with a victory. And I thought tactically they were a little bit poor in the first half defensively. I thought Liam Rosenior made a good tactical change in the second half. The introduction of Cole Palmer to be able to link up with João Pedro just brought João Pedro alive, gave him opportunities to break forward, runs to make. And yeah, I just thought Chelsea grew in strength. I thought Napoli pushed them initially. They were quite intense with the press, and the fact that they didn't really have a bench to change to, just highlighted by the fact that Chelsea could turn and bring on so much talent. And as the game went on, the longer it went on, you just felt Chelsea were going to end up winning. And
in terms of the way, Leon, that Liam Rosenior is rotating that talent, I mean, do you think he's trying to settle on a settled starting 11, or because the squad is as deep as it is that he's going to keep changing? I mean, Estevao started tonight. Reece James was playing at centre-back, Malo Gusto at right-back. Central midfield seems pretty settled for Chelsea, but still there's a bit of flux there, isn't there?
Yeah, I think he's going to end up trying to just keep rotating. I think ultimately when it comes to the big games, that the main players will play. I think João Pedro will play. Cole Palmer when he's fit will play more often than not. Enzo, I think that was quite a settled midfield three in Enzo, Santos and Caicedo. But I think with everybody else, I think he's quite happy to keep moving, keep rotation, make everybody feel like they're an equal part of the squad, like nobody's really sort of on the outsides. I think they've got so many games. I think it's his managerial style. I think he's always tried to manage like that. I think he showed the owners when he was abroad that he's happy to buy into being able to operate with a big squad. And I think so far so good for him. That was second win in 2 attempts for Chelsea in the Champions League. And I'm not saying it was comfortable, but I think he made some good changes winning the game to certainly make sure that he was a big influence in why his team won.
Do you think, Leon, it will raise expectation levels a little bit from the Chelsea fans, whether they were underwhelmed or not by the Liam Rosenior appointment? This kind of win, in terms of setting them up for the rest of the season, this competition, pushing for Champions League qualification again, and even, looking at the second leg of that League Cup semi-final as well against Arsenal.
Yeah, everybody's expectations will rise, but that's what happens with fans. Everybody gets excited. We get excited. We want to talk about it, what the potential is for a team once they start to get settled and how they can propel themselves forward. We're still in an open transfer window. What can they do there? What can the players do within the squad? but he'll stay quite level-headed. He'll stay quite settled, having played against him, knows Dad really well. He'll be quite composed, and I think what you see is what you get. He's very astute. He wants to methodically go through things, tactically make sure he's working in the positive way with Chelsea, but all the time in a calm, composed way that's not going to get too wrapped up emotionally, to just try and keep the goals in focus. And I think that's what this game highlighted. Away in Napoli, an intense place. Not many teams go there and win. I think it was the start of last season, maybe Real Madrid were the last team to go there and win. It doesn't matter what team Napoli put out. It's not an easy place to go and win in the Champions League, and yet he found a way of doing it. Chelsea found a way of doing it. They really grew into the game, and I think that's how you're going to see his and Chelsea's sort of time together progress.
Yeah, and we should reflect pretty quickly as well, John Bennett, on Napoli not making it, so finishing 30th in the table. And Antonio Conte hasn't always had the sort of happiest relationship with this competition, but that will not go down well in Naples, I wouldn't imagine.
It won't at all. This campaign just never got going. You think back to a really damaging 6-2 defeat to PSV Eindhoven. There was some damaging draws as well. They drew 1-1 against Copenhagen, 0-0 against Frankfurt, who've been conceding so many goals this season. And you mentioned it there, Ali. It's that reputation that Antonio Conte has, doing well in domestic leagues, but when it comes to the Champions League, he never seems to get it right. So, yeah, there will be an inquest into this. It's remarkable to see Napoli way down in 30th.
Yeah, OK, John. Leon Osman has gone. Thank you to Leon. This is 5 Live and BBC Sounds with you until 10:30 with all the Champions League reaction. Great night for Tottenham Hotspur going into these last two games in the league phase against German opposition. Beat Borussia Dortmund at home a couple of weeks ago and then got the win tonight away to Frankfurt, where they also won in the Europa League last season. John Akers, we seem to be going game by game with Thomas Frank and his time at Tottenham. Gloom and doom again after a draw away to Burnley. But I mean, in this competition, to finish fourth in the table and what it means for them going forward straight into the last 16 and playing the home leg second, you know, in that last 16 and potentially the quarterfinal if they get there. Fantastic result for him.
I've given up trying to work out football, Ali. Have you? 14th in the Premier League, a draw with Burnley at the weekend. No league win since December, 14 first-team players out injured, and fourth in the Champions League table above all of those big names. The fourth best team in Europe, Spurs fans, I'm sure, will be saying tomorrow morning when they're at work. And yeah, under pressure, but Spurs were absolutely superb tonight, I've got to say, and they could have had more easily. They hit the post in the first half through Odebear, had a goal ruled out for VAR, and then in the second half it was easy. It was easy for them. As soon as they went ahead, Kolo Muani, really nice finish, and then Solanke, they can get him fit. He could be huge for them in the Champions League, scoring that goal. Brilliantly taken right foot finish when he came on. And they've kept more clean sheets than anyone else in the competition as well. 6 in 8. Yeah. They've only conceded 7 goals. It is extraordinary. Archie Gray afterwards said, it's like we're a different team. And Spurs fans must be watching, scratching their heads at home and listening on the radio and thinking, how are we doing this and how are we so different in the Premier League?
Well, let's ask that impossible question then to former Tottenham midfielder Michael Brown, who's been watching Manchester City at the Etihad tonight. But can you make any sense of that, Michael? Have they been a bit more relaxed in the Champions League? Has the draw, sort of in terms of the games they've played, fallen nicely for them? What do you make of Spurs?
Evening, Ali. We've just got you into the right busiest time and exciting ending, haven't we? It's been good. What have I made of Spurs? I know, it's been good. What have we made of Spurs? I mean, recently I've had several visits, different commentary games, and speaking to lots of former players and Spurs supporters, and there is a misconception about whether Thomas Frank should be the manager to lead them on. Obviously recruitment's been mentioned. His level of injuries are really, really damning, hasn't it? That's gone on from the start of last season, so that's not gone away. So that ain't going to just happen overnight. How can he make it better? I'm sure that's something he'll have considered, but to be missing the amount of players and then playing with negativity, the Spurs supporters are asking for more. They're saying we need to create more, we need to be better going forward because this is the Spurs way. And he's found it tough. And I think that was probably the last game when it going up against Burnley at the weekend. But they've seemed to have found a nice diversion. Maybe the style of play, the way they can control playing against teams in Europe are slightly different and possibly suit them at this moment in time. That is a big, big win because with the games that they've got coming up, he's been under so much pressure whether he's going to be there. So I keep saying, stick with Thomas Frank. Let's stick with giving him an opportunity, because it's too easy to change, isn't it? I think he's built a structure at Brentford for a long period of time and he deserves that right. And we know he needs to do better, and we know the players do, but that's a great one for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Ian Dennis sitting alongside you at the Etihad Stadium, watching Manchester City get their win against Galatasaray tonight. Ian, they've ended up finishing 8th in the table. I think you were the man who had the most complicated permutations to deal with. In terms of the football on the pitch, it actually sounded pretty comfortable. The kind of tension came from elsewhere because they needed the other results to go their way.
Yeah, by and large, it was a comfortable night for them, Ali. Bearing in mind, like you say, they needed the results to go in their favour, and the only jeopardy came in the closing minutes because had Real Madrid equalised against Benfica, that would have forced City out of the top 8. At the time, Benfica were leading 3-2, but Real Madrid ended up losing 4-2 through that Benfica goalkeeper's headed goal, Anthony Trubin, in the 98th minute, and then there was a few City supporters around us who'd stayed, and that's when they realised that their place in the top 8 was assured. But on the pitch, they were very rarely stretched by Galatasaray. Once Haaland had put them ahead after 10 minutes, restored to the starting 11. Doku's through ball, left-footed chip over the advancing goalkeeper. Doku then set up Cherki with the second goal just before the half hour. Galatasaray did have their moments in the second half, but at no point was City's lead ever in any real danger.
So, Michael, straight through to the last 16. I mean, given the quality they've got in the squad, do you fancy them for a tilt at the competition this season?
Yeah, I think so. I think you've got to look at Matt Gay, Semenyo going to be able to join that squad as well. That's going to certainly make them stronger. No Rodri today, and lots of defensive fragilities really because of the injuries. John Stone's been out for such a long period of time. Josko Vardiol, a huge miss. Ruben Diaz. So like others, lots of injuries here, and mixed messages away from home, a lack of consistency. But with Pep Guardiola, with some of these players, you've got to fancy them. You've got to look and see the disappointment of last season in the league and in the Champions League. Yes, the draw was cruel against Real Madrid, but it looked like a lot better situation early on, Ali, and then it sort of fell away, some disappointing results, and now obviously just to scrape in. I think those extra games would have been quite difficult for them at this moment in time, fighting on all fronts. So a really good night, and you've got to say that they should be in and around it.
On that, Ali, this was their 9th game in 28 days in the month of January. Had they gone into the playoffs, they would have faced another 9 games in another 28-day period in the month of February. So not playing those 2 additional games, bearing in mind the injuries that Michael's just talked about, absolutely crucial for Pep Guardiola.
Just looking at the way the draw could pan out, and I know this is getting ahead of ourselves, but the way this works now, that you can sort of look beyond the knockout round and into the last 16. So by finishing 8th in the table, Manchester City could now come up against Bodo Glimt or Benfica, Real Madrid or Inter, one of those 4 teams. So again, might be in a situation there in the last 16 where they come up against one of Real Madrid or Inter, which could be very tough for them. Newcastle, by the way, finishing 12th, means in the knockout round they will either get Monaco or Qarabag. One other score I've got to give you this evening as well, which I failed to do so far, is Arsenal's women in the Champions Cup semi-final. Big win against AS FAR Rabat in the semi-final. They won it by 6-0. Alessia Russo scored a couple. Our commentary game on 5 Live tonight came from the Parc des Princes in Paris. We've not let John Murray and Chris Sutton get away just yet. And with everything else sort of going on, John, and you're trying to keep across all the other goals going in the table and what have you, Paris Saint-Germain and Newcastle were the 2 teams who started the night in the top 8 and eventually have ended up dropping out of it.
Yeah, and it was an eventful enough match on its own, never mind everything that was going on elsewhere, right from the start, really, in the first minute, when Newcastle, just like the last time they were here, had a debatable penalty given against them for handball against Lewis Miley this time, although Nick Pope did save it spectacularly from Dembele. But PSG, nevertheless, didn't take long after that to take the lead through Vitinha's shot, and it seemed to us that Newcastle might get swamped at that stage. But Nick Pope made saves, Newcastle hung on. Just before the break, Joe Willock headed a shock equaliser, and in the second half, actually, Newcastle gave just about as good as they got. Eddie Howe sent on Gordon, Barnes and Wissa, and they very nearly snatched the win when Barnes slashed a glorious opportunity wide. But you're right, a draw, not enough for either of them. So PSG finish 11th, Newcastle 12th, and as you say, they're in the same bracket as Monaco and Karabag, so they'll be the opponents for PSG and Newcastle, and they are in the same bracket, if you go further down the line, as Barcelona and Chelsea, so they're the potential opponents in the round of 16 for whoever gets through.
And Chris, bonsoir. How do you think Eddie Howe will view that this evening? Because, you know, I've been listening to the whole show tonight. I heard the team news come out, and it almost felt as though Newcastle had sort of just looked like with that selection they kind of accepted their fate. They've actually come really close to winning that game tonight and going straight through to the last 16.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, John mentioned that PSG really came out of the traps and put Newcastle to the sword, and then, you know, the penalty save from Nick Pope was big, but first 25-30 minutes PSG were in total control, but Newcastle hung on in there, as you know, they did really well, showed great resilience, and then they got the goal just before half time. I thought second half they played with great balance, and then when you think about that Harvey Barnes chance at the end, you probably wouldn't have wanted that sort of chance to fall to anybody else, and he just lost his balance and slashed it wide. What an opportunity that was for them. So it's not the result which Newcastle wanted, of course it's not, but a lot made about their poor away form this season. I think that they can actually take a fair bit of confidence from this game, and second half I thought they were the better team.
Yeah, big away game for them on Saturday in the Premier League as well. That's at Anfield against Liverpool. Let's bring French football expert Sarah Manai into the conversation as well, and look at it, Sarah, from the Paris Saint-Germain point of view. We only have to look at last season's Champions League. Paris Saint-Germain didn't finish in the top 8 there, and then really picked up in the second half of the campaign and went on to win it. What have you made of their campaign, their performances, and tonight in particular?
Good evening. Well, tonight it was a nerve-wracking evening, really, for PSG, and well, it was another bad one in the Champions League for Luis Enrique. I think it was always going to be difficult against Newcastle. They are quite unlucky against Newcastle in general. I don't know if you remember St. James Park as well 2 years ago in the group stage. It's always difficult for PSG to face that team. They kept pushing, I think, PSG with Dembele, with Vitinha, Zaire Emery. They were not efficient enough in the final third, I think. And it's not something they usually struggle with in Ligue 1. But then again, Ligue 1 is obviously different from the Champions League, and tonight they really struggled against Harvey Barnes, against Gordon. Chris and John just talked about it, that opportunity 3 minutes before the end of the game. Barnes should have scored, really. There was a penalty saved by Pope. I mean, they have been better, Newcastle, that's it, especially in the second half, really. And obviously not finishing in the top 8 is not ideal for Paris, but you said it. I mean, last season it was the same thing, and they had to play those 2 extra games, the knockout games, and maybe it helped them last season, you know, to actually play more, find their rhythm in the competition. And so maybe, just maybe, they're not that disappointed tonight. We'll see. They finished 15th last year, which was worse than this year, and they ended up playing Brest, which was an easy opponent for them, a team they knew as well. And we'll see the draw on Friday, but it could be Monaco. It could be Karabag, but it could be Monaco.
Yeah. I mean, could you see similarities between the two seasons, sorry, in terms of the way Paris Saint-Germain were playing at this stage last season?
I think they're struggling more this season in a sense that they are less dominant, even in the league. Even in Ligue 1, they're less dominant than last season at the same period of the year, at the same time. Lens and Marseille are really close in Ligue 1. Lens is only 4 points behind PSG, which is quite unusual for PSG not to over-dominate the league. It happened a few times, obviously, since they were bought, but it doesn't happen much. They lost their last game, against Sporting in the Champions League. They drew tonight. It is not quite. Maybe the two seasons in the Champions League are quite similar in a sense that we said it. They played the knockout games, mid-February at the same stage of the competition last year. So that's quite similar. They ended up winning it, obviously. But in the league, I find them a little bit weaker this season than they were at the same stage last year. I don't know if it's because they are, they're obviously tired from last season's achievements. They've got players who played the AFCON as well. I'm thinking about Ashraf Hakimi, for example. But they're playing a little bit more on the back foot, I think, this season.
Okay. Sarah, thank you very much for joining us on the show this evening. John and Chris, we're going to let you go as well. John Murray and Chris Sutton doing the business in the Parc des Princes tonight, but both Paris Saint-Germain and Newcastle have missed out on automatic qualification for the last 16. John Bennett has still got a lot to tell us, but we've got to deal with Liverpool and Arsenal very quickly first. Comfortable nights for both. At Anfield, Lee Blakeman was watching Liverpool hammer Qarabağ.
Easy for Liverpool in the end, despite question marks coming into it following that defeat at Bournemouth on Saturday. But it was never in doubt tonight. Through in third place, 38 attempts on goal, 6 of them taken, 2 in the first half thanks to McAllister and Wirtz. The other 4 after the break, McAllister with another, then Ekitike, Chiesa and Salah, who scored a worldie of a free kick in front of the Kop. Liverpool through in style, Liverpool 6, Qarabağ 0.
And John Southwell, I'm wondering whether finishing top of the Champions League table, 8 wins out of 8, another win for Arsenal tonight, might just ease some of that sort of Premier League angst. Just take their minds off it for a little bit, the old title race back home.
Yeah, let's see what happens at Leeds on Saturday. They won by 3 goals to 2 tonight. They couldn't have done much more, could they? Terrific achievement, top of the table, 8 wins from 8, 24 points from 24, including victories over Bayern Munich and Inter Milan. This one was won in the first half, 3-1 up at half-time. Gyökeres, Havertz and Martinelli with the goals. Ricardinho scored a late consolation for Kairat, but the perfect 8 for 8 for Arsenal, top of the European pile as they head into the last 16.
Yes, Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham, Chelsea, Manchester City, all automatically through to the last 16. John Bennett, I'm looking down this long Champions League table. There is one team in 23rd that particularly stands out to me. John Murray's been there this season. I went there last season into the Arctic Circle. Bodo Glimt, what a story tonight.
What a story. So they hadn't won a Champions League game until last week when they beat Man City, and now they've beaten Atletico Madrid by 2-1. Kasper Høgh scored 2 against Man City, scoring the winner. It was a real scramble in the 58th minute, but a 2-1 win. And yeah, it's fantastic. So they started 28th and they're up into the playoffs now, finishing in 23rd place. That is an incredible story for Bodo Glimt to be progressing to the next round.
And in terms of tonight's drama and, teams in, out and red cards and goals and whatever, Benfica Real Madrid was exciting this evening.
Benfica 4, Real Madrid 2. So it was an amazing end because in injury time, Real Madrid had 2 players sent off, Raul Asensio and Rodrigo. And Real Madrid were trying to get into the top 8. In the end, they finished outside of the top 8. But Benfica knew one extra goal would swing them back into the playoffs. So they sent their goalkeeper, Anatoly Trubin, forward. And guess what happened? Swung into the box. A brilliant header. It was like a striker, Trubin. He headed it in. Amazing celebrations, Ali. Jose Mourinho at his best. And Benfica squeeze on goal difference into the playoffs. That's an incredible story. The goalkeeper scoring right at the end.
Yeah, brilliant header from the keeper. Thank you, John. Brilliant work tonight. Real Madrid finish in 9th, so they go in to the knockout round. And the likes of, we've mentioned Napoli not making it, Marseille not making it into that knockout round, finishing between 25th and 36th. PSV, Athletic Bilbao and Ajax, other teams not to make it through. They have been eliminated. Look out for the draw on Friday. Certainly Newcastle fans, you'll want to know all about that. Newcastle, after the 1-1 draw away to Paris Saint-Germain tonight, have finished 12th in the table. It'll be Monaco or Qarabağ that will come out of the hat for Newcastle. there. So I think that just about wraps it up. There'll be more discussion of it all on a 2-hour EuroLeagues tomorrow night from 8 o'clock. And if you've missed any of the last half hour, it will be available later as a Football Daily podcast on the BBC Sounds app. I'm hoping that Tony Livesey has been across it all tonight. Tony, how are you? Not spoken to you for ages.
No,
you right?
how are you?
Yeah,
Who are you?
Good, no, good.
You're all right. It's good to... I was perusing the table this afternoon, and it occurred to me, I never liked change, so when they brought this new league in, I thought, oof. But actually, there were only 4 teams in the whole table that had nothing to play for tonight. I think it's been brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it builds, Tony, and I would argue up until this point, maybe this season compared to last season didn't quite have the jeopardy all the way through. But we have had some really sort of high-profile glamour games between the big teams. But on a night like tonight, it is absolutely brilliant. And I was doing that thing, Tony, because I was listening across the whole show and sort of keeping a chronological list of when the table was changing, and I've made at 15 different times in terms of teams that were in, then they were out. I mean, Chelsea in particular were doing a right old hokey cokey tonight, but I think that's one of the stories of the night, actually, Tony. The 3-2 win. Wow, that's a difficult place to go and play there. And that's a great win.
To get 5 out of the top 8 for the Premier League as well, that's extraordinary.
Well, yeah, it is, isn't it, Tony? I mean, people might grumble a little bit about that and talk about the financial power of the Premier League, but if you're a fan of English football and like watching those teams playing in the Champions League, then you've
still got to do it on a cold night on a Tuesday in carry bag, haven't you? And you do it. And also, spare a thought for Marseille, because that amazing Benfica goal in the last second with the keeper, that Marseille dropped out because of that. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.